रशीद साहब जुड़े सर। रशीद साहब जुड़े। रशीद साहब
जुले डॉक्टर साहब जुले શું ચાલે
जुले रशीद सर खमसाम सर
या जुजु खमसांग याले या जुले
सर सुनाई दे रहा सर?
या लाउड एंड क्लियर वी आर ऑन एयर
बिल्कुल सर।
यूट्यूब लाइव इन होगा
ओके ओके सर, ग्रेट टू सी यू सर। बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है आपको देख के, बड़ा स्मार्ट लग रहा हो।
हाँ सर, वीडियो तो चल रही है। हेलो, आवाज भी आ रही है ना सर? ओके सर, डन हो गया। ठीक है, ओके सर, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सर। ओके, अटेंडेंस से चीज करके पहले बना दिया था।
हाँ, वो रविंद्र पांडे hotmail.com वो हो गए हैं, आ गए हैं उन्हें। सर नमस्कार।
हाँ नमस्ते नमस्ते, कैसे हैं?
ठीक सर, फाइन सर, वेलकम। प्रोफेसर सूर्य प्रकाश भी आ गए हैं।
नमस्कार प्रोफेसर साहब
जी।
नमस्कार सर, गुड इवनिंग।
वेरी गुड इवनिंग सर, गुड इवनिंग।
नमस्कार सर। So the commissioner, he is facing little bit technical problem in joining. I will try to join him, sir.
वो
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I've joined.
Oh, okay. Good, sir. Swagat, sir. Can you please switch on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can remove the mask. Your
हम आ गए हैं, लेकिन शायद अटेंडी हैं, उनको पैनलिस्ट बना लीजिए।
कौन सर?
कर दिया ना, मैं उन्हें बता देता हूँ। ठीक है, ओके।
अब आ गई आपकी आवाज? चलिए दिख गया। ओके। Sir, can we start or wait for a while, sir?
I am ready.
Okay. Major General Manoj Kumar, sir, has come. Subrat Sharma, sir, Executive Director, NIDM, whether he has joined?
This we have asked from Professor Surya, sir.
Professor Surya, sir.
Just calling him. I'm just calling and confirming. I think he has not yet joined.
Okay, please, once he joins, then we'll start, sir.
Good evening, sir. वो ज्वाइन करना था ना लद्दाख वाला प्रोग्राम। Friend, I have spoken to him. He's saying he will join at around 8:30. He's got some work, so he will join us at 8:30.
Okay.
Continue with our program.
Okay, sir. Okay, then shall I start now?
I think we are good to go.
Okay, we'll start, sir. Then once sir comes, then at that time we will again have executive directors are online, then we'll start the program, sir. Yeah. Very good evening and July to all the respected dignitaries on the virtual platform and to the online participants. I take this opportunity to welcome today's chief guest, Shri Swagat Vishwas, Divisional Commissioner and Secretary, Disaster Management, Union Territory of Ladakh. I welcome Dr. R.S. Rawal, Director, GB Pant, National Institute of Himalayan Environment, Uttarakhand. I welcome Professor Surya Prakash, National Institute of Disaster Management, Delhi, and all the respected panelists. I also welcome to all the participants on this virtual platform. And thank you all the respected dignitaries for sparing your valuable time and joining the webinar. On this onset, once again, I welcome you all for the celebration of the United Nations declared International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. On this day, we, the Ladakh Regional Center of GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, National Institute of Disaster Management, Delhi, and the Ladakh Science Foundation, Leh Ladakh, organizes the national seminar or webinar on the disasters in Ladakh, vulnerability and preparedness. The International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction was started in 1989 after a call by the United Nations General Assembly for a day to promote a global culture of risk awareness and disaster reduction. It is held every year on 13th October. The day celebrates how people and communities around the world are reducing their exposure to disaster and raising awareness about it. It is known fact that disaster hits the hardest at the local level with the potential to cause loss of life and great social and economic impact. Ladakh is no longer immune to the disaster. In fact, it bears the pain of climate change, global warming, tectonic plate displacement, rapid increase in tourist inflow, and man-made disaster. Ladakh is ecologically fragile area, very sensitive environment. It lies in earthquake zone 4. Its glaciers are melting at a rapid rate. The mother nature is crying with immense pain, and we, the human being, are adding salt to her pain. In the last few years, we have witnessed unprecedented rise in the occurrence of disasters in Ladakh, such as cloudburst, glacier lake outburst, snow avalanches, landslide, flash flood, and frequent low-intensity earthquakes. Hence, it is very important to have a good disaster risk governance to save lives, reduce number of disaster-affected people, and reduce economic losses. We need to have a clear vision, plan, and competent import institutions acting on scientific evidence for the sustainable development of Ladakh. It is our responsibility to reduce the consequences of disaster, adequate preparedness, disaster awareness, and protect the fragile ecology of Ladakh for the future generations. We are thankful to our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, that he has declared in his independence speech that Ladakh will be the India's first carbon neutral region in the country. So with these opening remarks, I once again welcome you all. And now I request Dr. R.S. Rawal, Director, GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, to deliver his welcome address.
Namaskar. Good evening, everybody. In fact, this is I would say, whatever Mr. Sering has deliberated about the event, that has been very apt. And at this occasion, of International Day for Natural Disaster Risk Reduction. I take this opportunity to welcome you all on behalf of my institute, the GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, as well as on behalf of the other two collaborators who have joined hands with the institute for organizing this event, the National Institute of Disaster Management and Ladakh Science Foundation. So I'm privileged to extend this welcome to all of you, particularly the chief guest of today's webinar, Sri Swagat Biswas, IAS, Divisional Commissioner, Ladakh, and the keynote speaker of this event, Professor Surya Prakash, and also the expert panelists who have been drawn from various agencies engaged with disaster-related activities, research and development. And also, I extend a very hearty welcome to all the participants who have joined this webinar from various parts of the country. Friends, as an institute dedicated for undertaking research and development activities in front-running issues on environment and development of Indian Himalayan region, the Institute is pleased to join hands with the two other partners of this webinar and to organize this event, which is entitled as Disaster in Ladakh, Vulnerabilities and Preparedness, on the occasion of the International Day for Natural Disaster Risk Reduction. I am very happy that the regional center of GB Pant Institute at Leh, they explored this possibility with the other two partners to organize this event. And this event, in my opinion, is very apt and pertinent, particularly while we are facing the brunt of COVID-19, which is the disaster across the globe. So that way, it is a very important event, and I believe the experts who are basically would be joining this event as a panelist, they would be discussing on different aspects of the disaster risk reduction, particularly with reference to Ladakh. And the outcome of this event will be, in my opinion, will be a knowledge product which will facilitate the, as it was indicated, that the Ladakh is also facing the problems of disasters. So that knowledge product will be very handy for Ladakh government to expedite or to strengthen its governance for disaster risk reduction, as the theme of this year is focused on governance with respect to disaster risk reduction. I would not take much of time because I'm not an expert of this field, but I would just mention that Institute made a small beginning to contribute towards the carbon neutral Ladakh by way of organizing one major event which was held during early March 2nd to 5th in collaboration with the Ladakh administration. And one of the deliberation or one of the session was dedicated towards the disaster in the Ladakh and disaster risk reduction in the Ladakh. And I'm very happy that soon the knowledge product or the outcome of that event on disasters will be released, and that will be basically one of the knowledge product which the Ladakh administration can take up for action on the recommendation of that event. So I'm hopeful and I would say that the panelists who are joining this event, they have worked on different aspects of disasters, and they have experience, expertise. And the keynote speaker of today's event, he is expert of this field. So that way, we are very hopeful that the outcome of this event will be very productive and will help us, will help the Ladakh administration to take up the subject forward. Thank you once again for joining us for this event, and I wish this whole event very success. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your encouragement. Now I would request Shri Swagat Vishwas, IS Divisional Commissioner and Secretary Disaster Management, Union Territory of Ladakh, today's chief guest, to deliver his address.
Good evening, everybody. The distinguished guests, Dr. R.S. Raval. I saw the name of Major General Manoj Bindal also. Professor Surya Prakash. Dr. Tashi from the Ladakh Science Foundation, Ladakh Regional Center, NIDM, GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment. First of all, I would like to congratulate and thank that आप लोगों ने शाम को 7 बजे ये कोविड के सिचुएशन में जब नॉर्मल वेबिनार हम लोग नहीं कर पा रहे हैं तब भी जज्बा दिखा के you have used this opportunity to organize this event of importance, great importance rather. So I would thank you. That shows that we are encouraged and we want to do something in this field, which needs to be done. We would like to gain from the experts that you have collated for this evening, and I believe, I hope I have not lost you. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah. So I see a good number of people who have joined, and good panel of experts also who can enlighten us on what to do in the future. I personally have seen a disaster in Ladakh in 2015, which was a cloudburst cutting across regions, Nubra, eastern main Ladakh, and it is devastating, not to say what we saw in 2010. And now we are having this spurt of earthquakes, one after the other. So there are two things. One is a long-term solution, how to do it. You as experts, as academicians, as people from various technical and what should I say, expert agencies like the NDMA, the NIDM can guide us. And the other part is execution in the field by our officers, by our health practitioners, by our collectors or sub-collectors and police and various food machinery and whatnot, and army and the air force and the geologists on ground and things like that. So Ladakh poses a lot of problems, when we actually look at how to mitigate or how to come out of a disaster situation. Distance is one great problematic thing that comes our way. The administration is concentrated in the towns of Leh and Kargil, which are more resourceful compared to the peripheries, which are much less resourceful. We have a problem of communication. 117 villages are still not still not connected through telecom facilities. We have economic viabilities of the private sector. As soon as a disaster strikes, when you try to push machinery, resources from the private sector, there is economic viability that comes in the way. Then certainly there is scarcity of resources, the huge amount of land, 60,000 square kilometers, how to run JCBs, simple JCBs, to run the simple JCB from Leh town to Nubra, it takes 5 hours. Then if your roads get cut off in the way, then if there is mudslide, you can't move. Then there is a shortage of manpower, huge amount of manpower shortage, be it medicals, doctors, paramedics, difficulty coping with the COVID situation already. Then, there are limitations of flying time. The Army, Air Force, or our private choppers, we can't fly. We can't fly after 12 noon, 2 p.m. maximum. So when we have to evacuate people, those are challenges that come. Then we have various other natural vagaries of water, wind, forces of tentages, how to pitch tents, where to pitch tents, tent koi baha ke le ja rahe hain, hawa. So there are multiple problems in Ladakh, unique problems in Ladakh. So which I thought that in a situation of disaster, actually we face on the ground. I saw a nice message from one of the participants who is asking about afforestation. Now, such huge areas, how to afforest? What should be the strategy to afforest? The money required, the manpower required for afforestation. What should we afforest with? So these are areas where we need to have really planned intervention. Where I would request our experts in the panel today to enlighten us, give us a roadmap, and then maybe in the future we can crystallize the ideas and take it ahead. I once again thank all the organizers for having organized this good, beautiful evening and delving on this subject. And I hope that the organizers will bring out a paper of sort after the discussion from this. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sparing your valuable time. In spite of very busy schedule, you have come here and shared your field experience. In fact, finally, the people on the ground, they have to deal with the disaster. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And definitely we will discuss about the scientific aspect, and we'll come out with the recommendations in consultation with the NIDM and GB Pant and other experts. Thank you, sir. Now I will like to call upon our keynote speaker, Professor Surya Prakash of the National Institute of Disaster Management. Professor Surya Prakash holds a doctorate in the field of earth sciences. He joined in the institute in 2006. He pursued his career as a Central Building Research Institute, IIT Roorkee, JNU, and Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, and the Forest Research Institute, and Willard Institute of Technology. He is the lead of IPL 172 project under the International Program on Landslide, and is coordinating the Indo-Japan and Action Plan on the Landslide and Disaster Management as a part of intergovernmental cooperation. His key area of the interest are landslides, avalanches, earthquake, floods, tsunami, glacier lake outburst, dam burst, mining disaster, community-based disaster risk management, damage and loss assessment, disaster safe hill area development, and environmental management. I thank Professor Surya Prakash for delivering the keynote address, sir. Your mic is mute, sir.
It's okay now, I think.
Yeah, fine, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Perfectly all right.
Okay. With due respect to Commissioner Ladakh, Shri Saugat Bishwas ji, Director GB Pant, Shri Rawal ji, Subrat Sharma ji, sharing Rashi ji, and all the panelists, delegates, and students attending this program. I welcome you all on this International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, as declared by United Nations, initially way back on 22nd December 1989. That was the day when actually they decided to even launch an international decade for natural disaster reduction, ID and DR. This was resolution 44 of 236, which actually was arrived upon after long discussions regarding developing countries, why they are not able to reap the benefits of their development and growth despite their hard efforts. And after the discussion, it emerged, it was the disasters which were eroding away their gains of growth and development. And there is no systematic approach, planned approach, scientific approach towards disaster management. They don't even have the adequate data system and actually any systematic arrangements for dealing with these issues. At that time, Government of India was also part of the IDNDR, which started from January 1990. It's a coincidence that I started with that around that period, and we started with small 3 to 5 years of projects given for disaster management, and we started working on the disaster database and small case studies. So that was the period when actually internationally also lot of countries, they initiated their works. And let me tell you, before I go to the actual informations, that Japan was one of the leading country, being economically well, but worse affected by natural hazards and disasters. So they were facing earthquakes, landslide, avalanches, tsunami, flash floods, all kind of disasters. And they proposed to the United Nations that we will hold World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. And the first one was held at Yokohama in Japan. And there, with an international discussion, they arrived at one of the strategies, which was termed as Yokohama Strategy for a Safer World. And this strategy actually focused only on the integration of private sector in disaster resilience efforts with promotion of business support schemes. So that was the main theme, and thereafter it continued. And the Government of India, after the Yokohama framework, which actually proposed establishment of a system arrangement, and Government of India at that time, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare was the nodal ministry for disaster management. They established a National Center on Disaster Management at Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. Now, this NCDM, which came up in 1995 March, actually hosted most of the national level activities on disaster management, but it was supported through a central sector scheme in which all our ATIs and SIRDs, they were provided with the disaster management cell. So it started like this, and in 98, you know, we had a major landslide called Malpa landslide, which killed more than 200 people. And in 1999, we had Odisha super cyclone, which killed 10,000, more than 10,000 of people. So these served as a turning point, and Government of India constituted a high power committee. And that high power committee suggested an institutional and legal framework at the national level. Now, after the 2001 submission of HPC report, there was an earthquake during January 26, 2001 in Gujarat. Then in 2004, 26 December, there was Indian Ocean tsunami, which had affected almost more than 11 countries, and lakhs of people got killed. This actually pressurized our government to placed the bill for disaster management in the parliament, and both the houses within a period of less than 2 months actually cleared the bill, and it was signed by the president and notified on 23rd December 2005. So historically, this is how internationally and nationally the progress has been made in the field of disaster management. In the year 2005, at the international level, Japan proposed to hold the second World Conference on a decadal basis. And the second World Conference was held at Hyogo in Japan. And there they proposed Hyogo framework of action for disaster risk reduction. That was a 5-point actions which were proposed. And most the countries, they agreed, and it was proposed for 10 years from 2005 to 15. And so that in the next World Conference, the progress can be monitored, and if any revision or updations are required, they can be undertaken. So it did happen that governments did adopt the HFA, and in 2015, Government of India also considered the revision and the plans and policies. So 2005, we had the Disaster Management Act, and Disaster Management Act actually established institutional mechanism that was a national authority that termed as National Disaster Management Authority at the national level under the chairmanship of none other than the Honorable Prime Minister. The National Response Force and National Institute of Disaster Management. The NCDM, which was established in 1995, was actually upgraded as National Institute of Disaster Management in 2003, and the nodal responsibilities for disaster management from Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare was transferred from there to Ministry of Home Affairs in the year 2002. So Ministry of Home Affairs, thereafter the implementation of Disaster Management Act 2005 actually made it a statutory body as per Act. So we were developing and enhancing our human capacities in terms of disaster risk reduction and resilience. In 2015, Government of India also sent the delegation for the Third World Conference. There was 18-member team. Fortunately, I was part of that team, 18 members team, which was led by Union Home Minister at that time, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, who is currently the Defense Minister, used to be the Home Minister. And there another framework was decided considering the gaps and the weaknesses in HFA. The gaps were that we were not able to actually monitor the progress well because the targets were not there. There were only action points, but not the targets. So in the Sendai framework, targets were also decided, and it was proposed for another 15 years. This was the World Conference. Honorable Member Kamal Kishore ji is also present among the gathering, and it proposed 4 priority actions with 7 targets. I'll just mention those 4 priority actions. They were well defined in terms of identification, assessment, and understanding. That was considered as a prerequisite for management of any disaster risk. Second was the strengthening of disaster risk governance, which is today's main theme for the International Day. That is strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risks. Third was investing in disaster risk management for resilience. The fourth was enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. So these were the 4 priority actions which were decided as priority actions under Sendai framework. The targets were to reduce first the casualties or the mortalities from the disasters. We have been able to achieve to certain extents. As you can see, the super cyclone, which actually killed more than 10,000 in 1999, similar kind of super cyclones in the recent times, the number of casualties were less than 2 digits. that is less than 2 dozen in Phylline cyclone and in other cyclones, which has recently happened. And similarly, reducing the number of affected population. This was another parameter which was considered, that those people who get killed, they actually don't bear that pains and agonies of the adversities in post-disaster situations. But those who survive, they have to bear that, and their number have to be minimized. Not only physical, economical, environmental, but also psychosocial trauma is also there. So a lot of such issues arise in post-disaster situations, which need to be addressed. The third target was direct disaster economic losses in terms of GDP to be reduced. So in terms of first two, we are trying to reduce the numbers by various means. By evacuation, we are able to reduce the number of affecting population, and also by through our prediction, forecasting, early warning techniques and technologies, we are able to reduce the number of mortalities. However, we are increasing our investments in development and growth, and hence more exposure and more vulnerabilities and more risk is there, and hence more economical losses, which need to be addressed properly. The fourth was substantially reduce disaster damages, particular to infrastructure and disruption of basic amenities. So these were the main issues which were to be addressed, and particularly infrastructure, we focused on health and educational facilities and infrastructure. You know the today's importance of the health facilities and infrastructure being realized after the occurrence of pandemics recently. So these are 4 targets where we wanted to bring reduction. There were other 3 targets where we wanted enhancements. That was enhancement in number of local and national strategies for disaster risk reduction. Now, every year after the Sendai Framework and World Conference, we are observing the International Day and focusing on each of the targets. So in 2016, we had focused the first target. In 17, we focused on the second target. 18, third target. 19, fourth target. Now 2020, we are focusing on the fifth target, that is local level risk reduction strategy and national strategies. We have national disaster management plan. However, we do not have properly covered our local level risk management plans and strategies. Sorry. So we have to work out at the local level, as previous speakers told, that every area, every terrain has, and every population has different characteristics and issues and contexts. So we have to actually mold our strategies accordingly, until unless we make them contextual, rational, logical, in conformity with the local population, geography, geology, demography, and socio-economic characteristics, we cannot succeed in achieving risk reduction and resilience. Then, point was international cooperation across borders. In the developing countries, we already have some international cooperations. For example, we have BIMSTEC, we have SAARC cooperation, we have India-Africa Summit, and similarly, ASEAN countries, we have East Asia Summit, and many other such cooperations, which we are undertaking. And similarly, increase the availability and access to multi-hazard early warning system. The Divisional Commissioner, Ladakh, said there are problems of communication in the Ladakh area. They are because of physiographic conditions as well as technological issues. So we have to address that. In disaster management, the first failure is mostly the communication failure, then power failure, transport failure, and other kinds of failures. So we have to manage all such failures so that the risks in any disaster situations can be reduced to a good extent. Then the second is our knowledge regarding disasters must be very clear, credible, and understandable, communicable to the local public and the functionaries. So we must establish good national level early warning system as well as local level early warning system or community based early warning systems. So this also needs to be looked into. So these were the 7. Are we monitoring actually our good governance for disaster risk reduction? We are monitoring it in terms of lives saved, 10 lakh of people, or number of affected population, 10 lakh of people, so that we have an average and ratio of the population, not just dependent on absolute numbers, which may vary from country to country, place to place. So we are giving a ratio and proportion to the total population in any particular area. So more the density of the population or concentration of the population or exposure of the population, more will be the risk, and hence we have to make more intense efforts. So this is one which we have to focus, and focusing on national and local strategies, keeping in view the current situation of pandemics, zoonotic diseases. We earlier had SARS, we had MERS, we had many other such diseases, and currently the COVID-19. Then the climate extremes. Ladakh area actually has been very adversely affected by changing climatic conditions because of its the geographical position, I would say, and also geological conditions. So we have to look into this. Besides this, the socio-cultural conditions and economical conditions of this area are also very different from rest of the country due to inaccessibilities, due to the toughness and roughness of the terrain, and also geodynamic activity and adverse meteorological conditions. So all these need to be met out, plus the environmental breakdowns in terms of somebody had written about the deforestation and afforestation levels for developmental purposes. So we have to go for this, and how we can go for this is also suggested in the United Nations this framework, that we can go for multi-sectoral linkage of the policies from different sectors across borders, disciplines, subjects, and departments in terms of land use, building codes, public health, education, agriculture, environment, energy, water resources, poverty reduction, and climate change adaptation. So we should not leave anyone behind. That is the motto of this disaster management: no exclusion, all inclusive, no one leave behind. And that was also given by our Honorable Prime Minister in 2016. Post Sendai, actually our delegation in Sendai itself declared we'll have the first Asia Ministerial Conference. And we did have it from 3rd to 5th of November in 2016, led by our Honorable Prime Minister. And Honorable Prime Minister 2015 actually considered the 3 major agreements which took place in 2015. That were, one was the Sendai framework, which held one in March. Then we had SDGs in September, and in November, December, we had COP21, Paris Climate Agreement, and also for subsequently the new urban agenda at Addis Ababa. So all these were clubbed together, and Honorable Prime Minister gave us 10-point agenda, stating that all sectors and all developments should imbibe the principles of disaster risk management. Whatever construction, development, growth we want, it should be considering the principles of disaster management. Then work towards risk coverage, risk transfer, risk sharing, and risk coverage should be possible in all sectors, including industries and enterprises. Then encourage greater involvement and leadership of women in disaster management, because our national policy in disaster management, which was released on 22nd October 2009, and we says the change of culture, development of a culture of prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and efficient response. And that is only through education and social nurturing that is led by womanhood. So they can actually be empowered, involved, and become leaders for disaster management. Then investment, that was the third priority under the Sunday, was also suggested for risk mapping. We need to identify, we need to assess, go for hazard hunting, and then know the kind of the risk, and then decide your priorities and then manage them. Then leveraging technology. Government of India is very much positive towards using the best technologies, and on the other hand, it also promotes indigenous and traditional wisdom for disaster risk reduction. With the universities and developing a network of universities, NIDM already established an inter-university and inter-institutional network on disaster management. Utilize the opportunities provided by social media and mobile technology. These days they are very popular, and we have to rely upon them and give them a proper direction. Instead of these bringing more rumors and misinformation, we have to provide appropriate mobile apps and social platforms for providing correct informations. Then build on local capacity and initiatives. Whether it's local level, district level, or state levels, they have to bring their own capacity enhancement initiatives for disaster risk reduction. This is also encouraged by our decentralization process after the 73rd and 74th Amendment in the Constitution, which has empowered our urban local bodies and PRIs to undertake developmental activities. The ninth was opportunity to learn from disasters must not be wasted. Every disaster should be documented, and lessons learned from them should be implemented and taken forward for future developments and growth. So that is also given there. And finally, bringing cohesion at the international level. You know that when earthquake took place in Nepal in 2015 April, it was our Prime Minister who communicated the Prime Minister of the Nepal, and our NDRF reached in the shortest possible time to help them. So we have been helping across borders to other countries, including Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and like that. And this is 17 goals which are also interrelated. So what it actually states is that rather than treating them separately, integrate them, bring them together, and use mainstream them, so that we don't have ad hoc piecemeal reactive approach. Rather than that, we have integrated and holistic approach for disaster risk reduction. Today, the communication cannot be complete if I don't talk about COVID-19 and steps to be taken to protect from yourself from COVID-19 situation and the preventive measures being taken up. Disaster Management Act 2005 actually is one of the main instruments that has been activated, invoked for prevention of the spread of the disease COVID-19 after January 2020 in India. So you can see that we are sharing number of posters, campaigns, and mobile apps through social media and web apps and web platforms. The information regarding what is this virus, how it is spreading, what are the ways to detect it, to diagnose it, and we have also enhanced our own government systems to create our tracing, tracking, trending, and testing treatment provisions under this, and making people learn through tests and also through the figures. So this virus is actually not new. We have been dealing with this, and these are, in fact, when HPC was created, we identified 6 different types, classes, and in which 33 different types of disasters were identified, in which biological disasters were also there, which included the epidemics. And this also need to be treated. Now, in disaster management, the professional backgrounds of as an individual doesn't make much difference, because there is no excuse for any other disaster which is not falling within my profession. So I have to deal with it. And we were supposed to develop our strategies. After it was reported from Wuhan China in December 2019, we started working on it. That what should we do to avoid this incidences in our own country so that this spread is contained or managed. So we detected the signs which were there and learnt about the possibilities of tracing the people who have already infected or affected. And some of the signs I've just mentioned here, ache, pain, nasal congestion, runny nose, sore throat, are some of these, or cough, are some of the symptoms that you can see. However, this virus is very subtle in nature. Sometimes remain asymptomatic, and you are not able to see those symptoms. So we had to be now putting a cautionary word that we consider all affected by the virus, maybe in an asymptomatic manner, and consider yourself also. So avoid infecting others and avoid getting infected from others. That is the proverb we are using. And we are also knowing that people are getting scared because of the casualties that had happened after the COVID-19. However, not everybody gets killed. There are cases we found that which are actually happening because of comorbidities. And at present, we have almost 86% recovery rate. And almost about 1.5% of the persons is the casualty rate at present. And the disease at present is getting under control. However, since now after the lockdown has been stopped and opened, the areas have been opened because of economical and other reasons. So this constraint has to be now self-imposed. So we are now sharing this information that this virus doesn't spread by itself unless there is a human-to-human contact within certain distance limits. So if you can avoid that contacts or proximities to an infected or affected person, then we can stop its spread. And it spreads through droplets, which are actually, the virus is considered to be a protein kind of thing with layers. So these get settled on some surfaces. So we have to be avoiding this, touching those surfaces and inhaling or putting across others if we are coughing like that. So that in a disaster management perspective, we look at it as a hazard which spreads with high speed through a catenation process, human to human, and in a very wide geographical area within a very short duration. And in terms of vulnerability, because we talk in terms of HVCR, the vulnerability of the people depends on the proximity to the infected population or the affected population and the degree of exposure, as well as the personal immunities, physical and mental health conditions. So these are all governed and can be identified and assessed, and then we can take appropriate risk management options in a proactive, preemptive and graded manner, prompt manner, through tracking of diseased persons, trends, testing, treatment. And that's treatment, because there is no vaccine, we are proposing through quarantine and isolation means, and through containment, care and control of the disease amongst the affected communities. So these are the means which we had actually proposed and which have implemented and which showed results also. I remember I was expected to have a program in Kargil and Leh after this occurrence during February and March. I had to postpone the program because suddenly we got some cases reported from there, and that actually avoided the crowding of the people and through those training programs, and we could prevent its spread. So in this any situations, actually disasters go beyond our capacities. That is one situation, and we need collaboration, command and control system. So this is what we had actually implemented by collaboration between the health department, we had the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The secretary was given the power of the chairman of National Executive Committee. The Home Secretary enjoys those has those powers, were given to the Secretary Ministry and Family Welfare during the COVID-19 situation, so that this situation can be well managed. And finally, in disaster management, community-centric and ecosystem-based approaches are required. And these were some of those acts which we had implemented during this COVID-19. And as you can see, the most effective act was the DM Act 2005. And we established the control rooms. Ladakh would have also established these, and tracked tracing and testing mechanisms that would have been also strengthened, and treatment options and facilities must have been kept ready for any cases. Sanitization is very, very important in most of the infected areas or the reported affected areas. Using various means to larger areas, you can use this kind of machines, and surveillance using drone technologies, with the camera and speaker systems. All these were done for the containment areas. We were expected to work as part of the inter-ministerial central teams during the lockdown periods in the hotspot areas. And we visited almost every hotspot area where we were expecting the rising the cases. And those were the areas actually where most of the concentration of the population, either in the slum area or where most of the visitors are coming. For example, the Mandi areas. So, and where people were ignoring or neglecting the precautionary measures. So we were trying to impose penalties, and also the community kitchens and the community areas, and guiding them, and also the shelter areas where people were kept together. So everywhere we tried to actually implemented every cautionary measures and established helplines and secondary testing, tracing and tracking to know who else can be affected, so that they can be actually controlled timely and taken care well. And then the market areas and systems, they were actually well established. But however, what we find now is actually when it has been left to the communities to follow by themselves, that is not being well implemented. That's why our Honorable Prime Minister daily is telling that 2 गज की दूरी है बहुत जरूरी. And he also says, जब तक दवा नहीं, तब तक ढिलाई नहीं. So these actually are not for the any other purpose, but to remind the people to become aware, awakened and conscious about the current situation, which is not yet over. And in the supermarkets everywhere, whether it is the market owners or shop owners or the clients and the customers, wherever you go, you have to maintain these precautionary measures to control the spread of this disease everywhere. So I found in some areas they were being well prioritized. However, in others, people are actually getting false security that if I wear a mask, then I can leave aside the distance provisions. Keeping the distance between two persons is equally important as the wearing of the mask, because these masks will prevent entry of the droplets only in your two openings, that is your nose and mouth. The body, other parts can get those droplets, and if you touch those parts of your face, then maybe those droplets can enter to your body and later cause the disease. So that should be prevented, and particularly for the old and the children, you must be cautious. But there are people who actually ignore all kind of precautions, and they can be source of the infection, and they can get infected and they can infect others. So until unless all our community people and society people are aware and prepared precautions, we cannot become safe and secure. And then using hand wash, sanitizers, and other techniques locally or shops is very, very important. Some of the measures, I know that it's too late to elaborate on many of the things, so I will escape some of the slides due to late program. But I would suggest kindly go through nidm.gov.in. We have almost every information gathered from all the states, whatever government circulars, orders, procedures have been elaborated, and also from the central government, any of the departments and the ministries. And also, we have also given the guidelines, procedures for the public for various departments. So these are the things which you can find even at ndma.gov.in, where we have even plotted and analyzed the situations, looking into trends and doubling rates, etc. So basically, main thing that you have to decide is that I may be affected or infected, or people, anyone in front of me may be infected or affected. So everybody needs to take a caution so that droplets from one person should not get spread to the other person. So these cautions can be taken up, and distance must be maintained. So I'll not read through this. And even since the workplaces have been opened up, so workplaces, every time we must take all the necessary cautions so that those who are working in those offices or workplaces should not get affected. And the virus, even if you get touch those surfaces, you should clean your hands as frequently as possible so that it doesn't get into your body. And these are the websites which I would propose you to go through, where you will find credible and reliable information and the correct information as well as the current status. So mohfw.gov.in, ncdc.gov.in, scmr.gov.in, ndma.gov.in, NIDM, NDM India, cybercrime. So these are all informations and mobile apps which you can download and get the information, and also the social media using Facebook and Twitter or other social media. Now we come to the climate change. Again, the Honorable Prime Minister went to the Paris, and the parameters which actually govern the occurrence of disasters are precipitation, temperature, wind velocities. So all these we are looking into, and in terms of disasters are droughts, cyclones, floods, hailstorms, and landslides, lightning, health hazards, forest fires, heat and cold wave. Cold wave is one of the disasters, and glacial lake outburst plus today. NDMA released guidelines for globes also, and they are working on cold wave also. So, and landslides very frequently happening under changing climatic conditions. They were very much interrelated. And Leh flash flood, which took place in around first week of August 2010, actually realized the impacts of even heavy precipitation which can happen in a high altitude desert area. We had experienced around 100 millimeter of rainfall in a day, while it is not happening even in a year also earlier. So the sun-baked brick buildings actually got very much affected, and many people got killed. And there was another rumor which I want to discuss with you, is that there was the world's biggest afforestation program in Leh. And some of the people said that because there was a lot of tree plantation and afforestation took place, so the climate has changed. And this has brought more rainfall and causing the flash flood and the devastation. So this theory may not be correct exactly, because when we are actually dealing with climate change related events, they are not episodic in nature. They have to be long-term changes. So we have to actually relate those long-term changes in the weather conditions at least for a decade. Normally, the climate change is considered only if the change persists for at least 30 years of time. So 30 seasons. So that has to be well established, and there are not only in Ladakh, we can learn from other states and other territories within the country and across the countries where similar physiography is there or climatic conditions are there. I'm taking example from Uttarakhand 2012 floods. If we have learned from these floods which caused the similar damage and devastation in terms of our flooding and its consequences along the river sides, the 2013, the flash flood and landslides, we may have reduced the consequences. And these were the consequences of 2013. So I have both the pictures of 2012 and 2013 and lot of landslides we have to cross. And as a disaster management, we have to be familiar with the phenomena as well as the terrain and the society. Then only we can save. I had to cross this landslide, and subsequent to the Uttarakhand flash flood, June 2013, I was there from 11th to 17th of June. But I was sent back to help the state. And while I was in the post-disaster situation, I had to cross this landslide, and subsequently, by the evening, the landslide had gone, the road has gone into the river. So you can consider that what kind of situation you may have to face in response. Similarly, in tourism, it was talked about. These are the 3 hotels in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand, which got actually buried underneath the landslide. You can see next day. The previous photo was the day before. I used to personally stay in these hotels, and I was aware, and we actually evacuated the people there. So no casualty did happen because of the precursors we could notice. However, there was no trace of those buildings after the landslide happened, except the incident response system. All should be well aware. It is being implemented by our country for disaster management. So this should be learnt, and we have a lot of guidelines. At every state level, we have National Level Emergency Response Center, NERC. We have State Emergency Operation Centers equipped with most of the communication facilities. We want disaster resilient communication facilities, and also at the district level emergency operation centers, well equipped with all concerned information, technologies, and empowerment. So during COVID-19 also, we even established these telecounseling centers for helping the communities to receive their information and to give them guidance. And sitting and working with the community is very important, and talking to them in their own vernacular languages, in their own style, will be more effective rather than just one-way communications in any selective language. And through education training, we have to impart this information to all, and just telling will not suffice. We have to get them done. So learning by doing is better and more effective. So we propose tabletop exercises, simulation exercises, mock exercises, and real-time exercises to be done according to your own problems and context and conditions. We have to depend on the technologies also, and the field-based. If you don't restrict yourself to the classroom conditions, you can go to the field and show them how and what conditions can lead to what kind of problems, and then make them understand the actions to be taken. And these are webinars become popular, and now some people are using the other terms with pandemics, babydemics also, because so much, I think since morning 9 a.m. till now, I am busy with one or the other webinar because of this day. However, I suggest that in personal interactions may not be possible. What we are doing is we are hosting our programs at our websites. This is one of the websites, NIDMSSP.in. We have self-study program. You can freely register yourself and learn about disaster management. So go to these websites, learn yourself, assess yourself. So no need for any exams. You can even have tests on this platform and assess yourself. So, and learn by yourself, and posing the field examples. I'm showing one of the case where a multi-storied building, a hostel building which is constructed along a Nala, is very risky because there is a possibility of landslide in such geographical situations. And then also parallelly, there are examples of our traditional indigenous wisdom, which is from our experiences learned and which actually tolerated several types of disasters. So we should look into those traditional technologies and indigenous wisdom also. And not only bad examples, there are good practices also. Construction along the contour lines is a good practice in the hill area, but across contour lines is a kind of creating the disturbance in the slope, angle, grade and heights, and that creates more problem. Then preserving the consequences of the disaster situations to give them the public a guidance that if you don't construct properly, then what can be the consequences and what will be the scene afterwards. So we have to create field examples of the don't let everything be rebuilt or reconstructed. You can reconstruct at different sites and keep some examples for people's guidance, public guidance. It will be where people can go and start learning about disaster management. This is another building which was a school building. That was another so where after the earthquake the building got collapsed. So these things and landslide affected building, the fault in the field marked, and case study of a landslide with its picture and the history, and the Taiwan earthquake 21 September 1999. They created the field memorials and examples, and you can go and see and find the earthquake memorials experience centers. So I would suggest the Ladakh Science Foundation to kindly work out some innovative ideas of establishing these kind of science experience centers related to disaster resilience or disaster management, so that people and students can learn from it. And also create some kind of prevention and education centers as well. So in the experience center, you will simulate the condition, you will experience personally what would you feel if you had a shock of magnitude 6 within a room. What would be your belonging situation? But prevention and education centers provide you why do these disasters happen, where do these happen, and what can I do to prevent them. So creating this, I be very helpful. With this, I will say that you cannot do it alone. I agree. We have to develop partnerships and then solve the problems. So multi-stakeholder, multi-hazard, and multi-level approach. That is what has also been envisaged in the National Policy on Disaster Management is very much required, and documentations and workshops in post-disaster situations, and also involving right from grassroots level up to the ministry, both top down and bottom up approach are required and must be valued. There is no replacement for each other. Our country, we want to make it disaster free and resilient. That's the dream. And I found it during my Indo-Japanese cooperation on a crossroad, and I could not identify it. I asked my friend there. He said, Surya, Japan is prone to earthquakes, landslides, tsunami, avalanches, anything, volcanoes. So we teach our society through this tone to become resilient. And how? They said, you move this in any direction, it will quickly regain its position as early as possible. So we say disasters may come, disasters may go, but society be resilient to regain its position as quickly as possible as it was before the disaster happened. So we have to develop such social resilience against disasters that our society also adapts, goes for aversion, avoidance, prevention, mitigation, and preparedness to deal with the disaster situations. This is the final slide. I was working for a landslide in a forested land where I was supported not only by governance, administration, local departments, agencies, the NGOs, but also I felt by the wild life. This monkey with its baby came on the car which was given for the field work to me by the son of the priest of the famous Vishwanath temple in Uttarkashi. This baby, monkey with this baby, I say, we consider the hostile wildlife, but hostile wildlife become hospitable and affectionate to you. If you do good to them, you will have good. So do good and have good. Even hostile wildlife will become hospitable and affectionate to you. With these words, I thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Surya Prakash sir. Thank you very much for your enlightening talk, and you have touched upon the very important aspects of the disaster management, and particularly the disaster risk governance, which is really the need of the hour. And the places in like Ladakh, as you said, like geographically, geologically, it's very different conditions, very vast geographical area. So really the disaster risk governance is really the need of the hour. I also feel so. And other aspect you touch upon, very important thing is the land use and the building codes, which are really missing in Ladakh planning. So I think the NIDM we can work out some guidelines in this regard, and particularly after the flash flood of 2010. There was one question. There is one question from the Rigzin Nurbo. What is the lesson learned from the 2010 flash flood? I think the lesson learned is we have learned a lot of lesson, but it is not being implemented properly. So there, even I myself personally seen even along the water channel again the houses are rebuilt again. So really our memories are very short, and we tend to forget the disaster, and the lesson learned needs to be implemented. That is the point I take from your keynote address. And other thing, you given a very innovative idea of setting up of the experience center, disaster experience center, how to deal with. And definitely we will work with UT government and GB Pant Institute, and definitely we will take your input, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now Major General sir has come back.
Yes, sir. He is there, sir.
He is there, sir. Sir,
Sir has joined.
Now I request Major General Manoj Kumar Pindal, the Executive Director of National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi, to deliver his inaugural address, sir.
Just a second.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. First of all, sorry I could not come for the inaugural part because I was caught up in another meeting, and today being a International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, this is the 7th webinar which I am attending today.
Your video is off, sir.
My video is off.
Yes, sir.
Just a second. See me?
Yeah. Now it is clear, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
First of all, it's a very big occasion because we are having this program with Ladakh. 2 years back, I was posted in the core headquarters there as BGS, and I used to stay in Karzu base in the city, and so I have got very good memories of Leh and Ladakh and all areas around it. And when the snow wall came down in we managed to dig up one after 20 days, Hanumanpa. That time I was fully involved in that operation also. And a lot of avalanches on Khardungla Pass, which I was involved in rescue and relief. So I have very fond memories of Ladakh. Nevertheless, today is a very important day because in 1989, the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, it was started after a call by the UN General Assembly for a day to promote a global culture of risk awareness and disaster reduction. However, in 2009, the UN General Assembly officially designated 13th October as to commemorate the day as a International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. So this day celebrates how people and communities around the world are reducing their exposure to disasters and raising awareness about the importance of reining in the risks that they face. Disaster risk governance is the theme of this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, that is today, and where a great number of people have died and fallen ill because of the COVID-19 pandemic. United Nations General Assembly has designated this particular day as a reduction day to promote a global disaster risk reduction. So it is an opportunity for us to acknowledge the progress being made towards reducing disaster risks and losses in lives, livelihood, health, in line with the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 30, which was adopted at the third UN World Conference on DRR in Japan, March 2015. Professor Surya Prakash, in the previous lecture, he covered the Sendai framework in great detail. So I'm not going to go into the details of the Sendai framework. However, I will just say that in 2016, the UN Secretary General, he launched the Sendai 7 campaign to promote each of the 7 targets over 7 years, in which the 2020 target is E target, that is substantially increase the number of countries with national and local disaster risk reduction strategies by 2020, which lays the foundation for the implementation of the Sendai framework and is closely linked with priority for action 2, which is strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk. So in keeping with the day's focus on the impact that disasters have on people's lives and well-being, this year's theme is about conveying the message that many disasters can be avoided or prevented if there are disaster risk reduction strategies in place to manage and reduce the existing levels of risk and to avoid the creation of new risk. So what this all amounts to is a good disaster risk governance. In addition, during this pandemic 2020 and the climate emergency, it is telling us that we need clear vision, a clear plan and competent plan, empowered institutions which are acting on scientific evidence for the public good, which requires strategies for disaster risk reduction to be in place by the end of the year. So we need to see strategies which address not just single hazards like floods and storms, but those that respond to systemic risk generated by zoonotic diseases, shocks, and environmental breakdown. So as far as the DRR is concerned, we must understand it is really all about governance. Countries that develop policy, legislative frameworks, and institutional architecture and associated investment vehicles for disaster risk reduction in line with the goals, targets, and priorities for action of the Sendai framework, they have a capacity to manage, which we have seen during this pandemic. So the issues of disaster risk governance, that is identifying and acknowledging, planning and acting on disaster risk, have come into sharp focus this year as the evidence is accumulating of the failure of many countries to heed the many warnings in recent years and prepare for such global threats as is what we are facing right now. The case for a good disaster risk governance and strategic planning has been acutely demonstrated by the present pandemic, and it pales in comparison to the immediate need for such approaches in dealing with the climate emergency. We are all aware the world is on the course for a temperature rise of 3.2 degrees centigrade, and yet the G20 is responsible for 78% of the greenhouse gas emissions have made no impact on the continuing upward trend. 15 of the G20 members have not committed to a timeline for net zero emissions. So unless global greenhouse gas emissions fall by 7.6% each year between 2020 and 2030, the world will miss the opportunity to get on track towards the 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature goal of the Paris Agreement. And the consequences of very severe, very dire for both humans and the ecosystems. Thus, for the goal of this year's International Day for DRR is to identify uh, advocacy opportunities, to highlight how good disaster governance, planning, and implementation leads to reduced number of people affected by disasters, especially in terms of death, injury, displacement, and loss of livelihood. So, in conclusion, what I will say is that we need to always keep asking ourselves questions when formulating disaster policies for the DRR, which are like national strategy for DRR, have a clear vision supported by plans, the necessary competence, legislation, resources, guidance, and coordination within across the centers. And are we addressing the disaster risk in publicly owned, managed, or regulated? Have we included financial incentives, public awareness raising and training initiatives in the intervention? So these are the questions which we need to always ask ourselves whenever we are going to talk about DRR. And so national and local strategies for disaster risk reduction must be multi-sector, linking policies in areas such as land use, building codes, public health, education, agriculture, environmental protection, energy, water resources, poverty reduction, and climate change adaptation. So it's time that we raise up our ante and raise the level of the game so that it leads to a more resilient planet for future generation. So with this, I once again thank the forum and all esteemed panelists and participants who have joined this seminar for a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your sparing your valuable time and sharing your experience with us. And also under your able leadership, we expect that the newly curved Union Territory of Ladakh gets much more guidance from NIDM, National Institute of Disaster Management, in dealing with the not only just dealing with the disaster, but also to framework the policies, set up some institutions of excellence in Ladakh. So study the more scientific aspect of it, and as well as since you have been you have worked in Ladakh, you know the topography and problems of Ladakh. I'm sure that under your leadership, we can see much more effective implementation of the disaster bidding codes and policies in Ladakh. And thank you very much for your valuable guidance, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks, sir. And now our next sessions. Now we'll go for the panel discussion. So I'll be moderating the panel discussion, and we have the panelists. I'll just read out their name. And Professor R.K. Pandey of the Department of Geology, Common University, Uttarakhand, and Professor G. Gilani, Head Department of Earth Sciences, Kashmir University. Dr. Arijit Roy, Scientist, Head Department of Disaster, Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, ISRO, Dehradun. And Dr. Rino J. Than, Scientist, National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. Dr. Ravinder Kumar, National Disaster Management Authority, Delhi. And Shri Sonam Lotus, Head Meteorological Center, Srinagar. And Dr. Subrat Sharma, Head Ladakh Regional Center of GB Pant, National Institute of Himalayan Environment. Welcome you all for the panel discussions. Now I call upon our first speaker, Professor R.K. Pandey. Professor R.K. Pandey, are you there, sir? R.K. Pandey, sir?
I don't think he is there, sir.
He is not there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then next, Professor Jilani, Golam Jilani. Jilani, sir. I think he is having some power issue. Then now the next speaker, Dr. Arijit Roy. Sir, you can see Johnny.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah, Dr. Arijit Roy is a scientist in Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, IRS, Indian Space Research Organization, Dehradun. He is presently the head disaster management studies department at IRS. He had completed his PhD in botany with a specialization in restoration ecology from Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. And he has been working in the field of geospatial technology at different centers at ISRO since 2004. His research interest is in the remote sensing of the environment, geospatial modeling of the impact on the terrestrial ecosystem, mainly the structure and the functioning because of the climate forcing anthropogenic influences and the natural disaster of the forest, wildfire ecology, and the risk damage assessment. He is also interested in exploring the use of temporal hyperspectral satellite data to assess the spatial variation in the ecosystem level processing and follow especially of the nitrogen. He has guided more than 25 MTech MSc dissertation and has supervised 5 PhD. Dr. Rai has more than 80 publications, which include 40 reviewed journals publication in 22 peer-reviewed international conferences papers, and has authored 1 book and numerous chapters in the technical reports. And welcome you, Dr. Arijit Roy, and you can start your presentation, sir.
Good evening to all the dignitaries and participants. At the onset, I will take this opportunity to thank the organizers for providing me and Indian Institute of Remote Sensing an opportunity to be a part of this important event on disasters in Ladakh, the vulnerabilities and preparedness. If we talk about disasters, natural disasters are inevitable. But the technology will enable us to make a better and informed decision for disaster mitigation. In this respect, I believe that technology, that is mainly the space technology, the communication technology and information technology, play an important role in the preparedness and mitigation of the disasters. Prior warning of impending disaster can help in translocation of people as well as of the high value movable assets, thereby preventing the collateral losses as well as loss to the economy. Furthermore, I would say in case of emergency, the mobile communication devices, especially the space-based technology for the communication, will act as beacons as well as the methods for transmitting the local information to the community. And this technology will help and enable the community to take informed decision in case of natural disasters as well as these disasters induced emergencies. What I see is the future of technology for disaster management. It is the spatial decision support system, wherein the space-based, the ocean-based, and land-based sensors, as well as the communication and navigation systems, which will help in identification of the potential disaster-prone areas, the impending disasters, and in case disasters has happened, how to carry out efficiently the relief and rescue in the affected areas. The future of SDSS, I believe, will be something like a sensor web, wherein the Earth observation satellites as well as the communication satellites will be able to communicate to each other as well as with the ground-based sensors through various state-of-the-art technologies like artificial intelligence. And this data will be integrated to the various simulations and models which are being developed across the globe for studying the various components of the Earth and identify the regions of anomaly so that proper precautions and early warning can be given to the people of the areas where these sort of anomalies are being detected for helping in the disaster preparedness as well as prevention. I will give an example or how we can go about with the Sendai framework is as a background. I think Professor Surya Prakash as well as many of the esteemed Delhi dignitaries has already talked about it. So the Sendai framework is basically a 15-year voluntary non-binding agreement which recognizes that the state has a primary role to reduce the disaster risk, but that responsibility should be shared with other stakeholders also, including local government, the private sectors, as well as the non-governmental organization. The Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, which is from 2015 to 2030, is, I believe, the first major agreement of the post-2015 development agenda. And we all know it has 4 targets, 4 priorities of action and 7 targets. So I'll not go into the detail of that. I'll just take into account how the technology will be able to cater to these priorities of action and achieve the targets. So as the priorities of action, we have the technology for understanding disasters. So whenever we talk about disaster management, it should be based on an understanding of the disaster risk in all its dimension, like vulnerability, capacity, exposure of person and assets, as well as characterizing the hazards as well as the environment. This sort of knowledge can be used for risk assessment, prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and response. So what we need is actually to understand the science behind the disasters. If we talk about the second one, it is basically strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk and how technology will play a role. Disaster risk governance at national, regional, and global levels as well is very important for prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and rehabilitation. And it also facilitates, this technology actually facilitates in collaboration and partnership. So in which areas do this technology play a role? It is analysis, the spatio-temporal trends and related observations on natural and man-made disasters, understanding the spatial frequency of disasters for managing disaster risk, mapping of hazard, vulnerability, and exposure for minimizing the future impacts of disasters, spatial infrastructure network and their development for disaster response, as well as identification of location and extent of impact of disaster for effective rescue, relief, and rehabilitation. If we talk about the third priority of action, it is basically how technology can play a role for disaster risk reduction and resilience. So public and private investment in disaster risk prevention and reduction through structural and non-structural measures are essential to enhance the economic, social, health, cultural resilience of persons, communities, and countries. So in this respect, the technology actually, especially I would talk about in this case, the space technology, plays a very important role in monitoring the Earth's surface for changes in the surface features for identification of potential source of disasters. This space technology also helps in geospatial database creation on infrastructure for preparedness and effective response. The spatial database on disaster loss, damage for faster recovery, and rehabilitation and integration into the DRR or disaster risk reduction will be a very, very effective way for the development and planning. And finally, a smart spatial decision support system for fast and effective decision making in event of disaster. And finally, how the technology will help in enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. Here, I would like to state that the growth of disaster risk means that there is a need to strengthen disaster preparedness for response, take action in anticipation of events, and ensure that the capabilities are in place for effective response and recovery at all levels. The recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction phase is a critical opportunity to build back better, which also can be done effectively by including or integrating the disaster risk reduction into the development planning. Now, once we have talked about how the technology will be playing an important role in the priorities of action, we can just identify, go through how the targets can be made and where does these technology play a role in achieving the targets. The technology has a very great role in collaboration at international and national level. Like what we are doing now, the technology has actually brought us closer, and it has given us a very beautiful platform for collaboration. Second will be to integrate the space-based technology, the IT, as well as the communication technology in the curriculum at all levels, right from school to the higher education, so that people have an understanding of what these technologies can do. Then the technology, more importantly, the space technology can help to prepare a high resolution asset map and integrate the Earth observation based inputs in local level decision making. And finally, development of multi-sensor, that is space, land, as well as ocean-based early warning system for minimizing the impact of disaster. It is where the technology can play an important role for improvement of the targets. Now, when we talk about the reduction targets, that is reduce infrastructure damage, disaster-related economic loss, number of affected people, and mortality. Technology is playing a very important role in monitoring the human population and socioeconomic distribution through a network of mobile-based as well as GIS-enabled systems. Technology will also play a very important role in rapid identification of affected region and provision of rescue, relief, and rehabilitation. Both the geospatial technology, the communication technology, as well as the IT. Then we have this technology will actually play a very important role in integration of the disaster risk reduction into the developmental planning, especially with inputs from the Earth observation-based maps, that's high-resolution maps. And finally, the integration of the various Earth observation, communication, navigation, and IT for better response and coordination in case of disasters. So, this is in a nutshell what the technology can do for disaster management and disaster risk reduction, especially for areas which, like Ladakh, wherein the infrastructure as well as the other asset mapping has to be enhanced and made available to the local government. So thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Arijit Rai. And you have really enlightened us about the use of technology for the disaster management, and particularly the space technology like Earth observation satellite, communication satellite, and navigation satellite, and artificial intelligence in the disasters management, and also the integrating the space, IT, and communication technologies. So that's a really need of the hour. And to deal with the disasters, we really need these technologies, and particularly high resolution map of the satellites, which is really helping the authorities in the management and the reduction of the risk and the post-disaster management. And maybe, but so in some cases, like the cyclone and others, even the prediction also can be done. So it's I really agree with your points, and in the Ladakh, UT Ladakh also, I think they should coordinate with these national agencies and to get their expertise in using the technologies for better management of the disasters, and also like you talk about the many mapping the disaster zones and many aspects of this. And I hope we can suggest some of your inputs to the administration in Union Territory of Ladakh for the reduction in the disaster and management of the disaster. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, our next panel is Dr. Rinoj J. Thayan. Is he there? Dr. Rinoj, sir? I doubt he is also lost the communication.
No, sir, he's not there, sir.
He's not there.
He's there, sir. Now, yes, sir. Now he has on.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So,
yeah, okay, sir.
allow me to share the content.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rinoj J. Thayan is a scientist in the National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, and he has 30 years of research experience in Himalayan cyrospheres and hydrology, and focusing on the Ladakh region during the past 10 years. During this period, he worked on various aspects of Himalayan environment, including glacier mass balance, catchment runoff, and downstream impact, and glacier hydrochemistry, sediment transfer, mountain meteorology, and extreme event and floods. In the recent year, Dr. Thayan has brought the permafrost in Ladakh into the focus, and presently leads a multi-institution project from NMHS and Ministry of Earth and Earth Science. He is focusing on generating the field data from the data space regions of the higher Himalayas and established a couple of research stations in the Indus and Ganga basins with long-term research perspective. He has also worked in Antarctica and associated with the IPCC SCC AR4 as a contributory author. And extreme events in the Ladakh is one of the core research area of Dr. Thayan. Welcome you, Dr. Thayan, sir. Please go ahead with your
Thank you, Tashi. Hope my slides are visible to all of you.
Yeah, it's fine, sir. Fine, sir. Please go ahead.
So it is a paradox that we talk about water-related disaster in Ladakh, because Ladakh is considered one of the dry and arid region, and we all know that monsoon doesn't penetrate in this region. So we have in the Himalaya, we have this monsoon flood regime, and the Ladakh in the north of Pir Panjal non-monsoon flood regime. But we all know that in recent times monsoon is penetrating in this region and creating cloudburst kind of events frequently in this region. So when you look at the type of floods in the Himalaya, we have torrential rains, cloudburst in monsoon, and non-monsoon floods. We talk about cloudburst, glacial lake outburst floods, glacial surge dam burst, and snow avalanche dams. And we also have hybrid floods in the Himalayas, like rain on snow events, rain on glacial lakes, an earthquake-induced flow of earth burst and landslide dam outburst floods. So we have a variety of water-related hazards in the Himalaya, and in non-monsoon it is mostly related with glaciers, snow, and especially in Ladakh now the cloudburst is a dominant disaster. When you look at disaster risk reduction, it is important to know that the timing of these events which is occurring. When you look at Ladakh, the June, July, and August is cloudburst. August, September, generally because after the snow meltouts, the glow occurs, and in winter months it's the avalanche. So we have different action plan can be thought about in different seasons in this area. So I just focus on Ladakh region about the extreme rainfall events, which is cloudburst, which according to IMD, it is 100 millimeter per hour and covering an area of 20 to 30 square kilometer. But our studies during the last 10 years have shown that the cloudburst in the Ladakh region can occur in an area of less than 1 square kilometer and intensity with 200 to 300 millimeter in 10 to 15 minutes. So this is the kind of short events which is actually a challenge for any kind of disaster risk reduction or forecasting or management. And that is the challenge and which we need to encounter in planning. So the glacial lake outburst flood is, we all know that the moraine dammed lakes, when glaciers are receding in this area, there are ground ice which is melted, and the thermocrust lake kind of thing forms, and most of these glacial lakes in these areas are ice-cored moraine dammed lake. This is one kind of glacial lakes that is most dominant in the Ladakh region, and flood occurs when the strength of the moraine which is blocking the water gets weakened because of the warming temperatures, and that is why we are seeing more occurrence of such possibility of more occurrence of such floods in this region. And it is also possible, as recently happened in the Jaya village, it can be kind of ice falls in this moraine and dammed lakes, and which can overtop and create floods. Experienced by the Ladakh region is the landslide lake outburst flood, which is the dam created by the landslide falling into the river and blocking the flow of the river. And the severity of this kind of floods is, of course, determined by how long the dam stays there and store water before breaching. And the third kind of floods, which is possibility in Ladakh, is the glacial surge dam outburst flood. The glacial surge is a phenomena which is glaciers start flowing. You all know that the glacier is a flowing mass of ice, but the glacier starts moving in a greater speed and advances substantially in a very short duration. And in some cases, it blocks the river in the valley and create dams. And this kind of breach can be very disastrous. And like in the Pakistan, it is observed that in 3 months, in 12 kilometers of advancement of glacier happened. So that is the kind of speed which when the glacial surge happens. So these 4 kinds of disaster which I will be talking and with examples. But before 2010, we all, this is a common refrain in the area that this cloud burst is a very rare phenomena in this region because of the aridity prevailing in this region. But since 2010 cloud burst, which was so devastating, the number of studies carried out in this region have shown that this cloudburst kind of phenomena is actually not a rarity in this region. So for the last 10 years, since 2005, while traveling across Ladakh during field work, we located around 14 such events happened during the last 15 years. But these are the thing which we know, but there may be a number of other floods in the remote areas which is never reported. And I'm sure that except the 2010 and 2015 events, I think, and 2006, most of the events are unreported in the literature or in the IMD data. So, because as I said in the 2000s, there are a number of streams which are impacted. The study which we did in 2010, this is just example why we are missing these events in the Ladakh is because this is the area where the arch, the entry above the bus stand, the flood happened which struck the Leh town. And if you look at the Leh Mat station at the airport, there's only 12.8 millimeter in a day reported. But the huge flood occurs, and our estimates suggest that it is more than 200 millimeter in 7 minutes, which actually created this kind of flood. So this kind of, it is actually around 6 kilometers apart, the station and the place where the flood, the cloudburst occurred. So this kind of spatial constraints in the cloudburst, which is actually preventing us from actually monitoring and using the ground stations. And this is a challenge when we think about disaster risk reduction in these areas, and we need better monitoring systems to capture this kind of thing. So this is the study which shows that actually the flood can be around 120 meter cube per second, and the area of the flood can be much less than 1 square kilometer. Actually, the cloudburst created the flood. So, trained in the space, we have now other satellites precipitation, but all having a very high spatial resolution. And here you see that we have shown that as you constrain such events to a shorter actual impact areas, the precipitation intensity as well as the amount goes high. So this kind of, so that is actually one of the issues with actually understanding these kind of cloudbursts. The space-based technology have a limitation in giving us the right kind of data because of the much higher spatial resolution. Even in the modeling like WRF, which gives you only the 9 square kilometer is the lowest spatial resolution which can give. So these actually when it's much less, and so it actually gives you a distorted value of actual event. At the events in 2006 and 2010, if Alchi station between the 2 flood events, you can see that both the events are comparable, but the 2006 event, very less appreciation of that event because nobody got killed in that event. So the 2000 and where it is occurring in the inhabited areas. So in a kind of, and that is very important in this case, that in the Himalaya, not kind of events are only appreciated strong age occurs. But scientific studies and understanding is concerned, we cannot leave our studies limited to those events which is making an impact. We need to understand each and every event which is significant, even if it is not making and if creating any events occur and maybe killed or is being. But in terms of the question that which we have seen in Trisha village in Nubra in June 12, 2018. Fortunately, accidentally we were there during that time, and we came back and saw in these images, and we have shown all weather satellite data, but there is no trace of such an event. But when we looked into this Sentinel image, it is fortunately it is captured. This stream, and this is the cloud, cumulonimbus cloud, which created this flood. So such events even have to in base camp, and this is very crucial for border roads. It happened, and 2018 we ourselves experienced it, and 2019 in Murgi village, the last year we came to know. So there are a number of events happening in short, close proximity, and this is an area of concern. So the reason why this we look these events happening, and Ladakh is very pregnant with the possibility of having such events, is that we looked into the temperature lapse rate of this region, and we found that in summer months there are a number of days which is prevailing in the region, and this is really providing a base for to form. This particular in this Nubra Valley is happening in the month of June, and certain that the monsoon doesn't penetrate in this region in the month of June. So this is disturbances linked event, and that is of more concern that even the both disturbances linked and monsoon events are happening in Ladakh, and certain this needs to be studied better for any kind of disaster risk reduction action plan we need to implement in this region. The science of so what we know so far is cloudburst can occur from mesoscale weather system and also from local instabilities, and landlocking is probably essential for requirement which for this cloudburst. The cloudburst impact area can be as small as less than 1 square kilometer to 5 to 10 square kilometer for mesoscale weather systems, and its cloudburst intensity can go up to 300 millimeter per 50-20 minutes, and Ladakh is highly susceptible for cloudburst. And looking into the glacial lake outburst, this is one which I experienced in the year 2007 in this area on the en route to Pangong Lake. So we could map this lake here, which is actually to Pangong. And there are photograph, and we have actually given construct a new region the site, and with this input we have a much stable location of and now we have social action plan needs to be implemented, and the culverts and bridges in this area is vulnerable. And many times what happens in this kind of recurring flood areas, the river aggradation is happening. Every time a flood occurs, the depth to the riverbed from the bridge is reducing, and that makes this bridge more vulnerable. And we need to find appropriate locations for the bridge, and even cleaning up of this bottom river bed is one of the solution in these areas. So those are the action plans which we can think of reducing the disaster risk from such events. And of course, the glacial lakes, the number of glacial lakes are mapped by many agencies like NRSE and many other institutions. So it is also found that number of vulnerable lakes in this area is increasing. And so this is an area which we certainly need to look into for action in future in this area. And another key area of flood, which I mentioned about the glacial surge dam, happened in 1929 of Chomkumdan Dam lake burst. This is known as the Great Indus Flood, which devastated the areas. The Kumdan glaciers are known to be surging glaciers, and this is nearby the Akthas glacier, which is now started surging since 2009, and this is 2010. You can see this river, the Shayok, overrun by this glacier, and now then such dam. We established a discharge station for Border Roads Organization in 2015 in that area for construction of a bridge across Shayok River. And within that time, this was happening, and this ice bridge have created a flood of 3,000 cubic meter per second. You can see number of such pulses occurring, which is the release of these from this glacial surge dam outburst flood. So this is a very possibility in this area, and this is often neglected, but it can be devastated. So we need to monitor the surging glaciers and its movement for avoiding such extreme floods in this area. So the other one, which is the landslide lake outburst flood, which is occurred in the Futkal River in Sanskar. Here you can see this landslide occurred in the month of, I think, in the November, December time, and then it is breached later. And 14-kilometer lake in May 7th. Is preparations made by the district programs is very important, and this is also a possibility because recently we have started studying permafrost. The question is how this landslide occurred in the month of December when the snow fall just began to happen in that area. It is very rare. So usually such landslide occurs during in the monsoon regions, and in Ladakh, I think in the last month also there is in Shayok there was some strong landslide occurred, which the news is being shared in the WhatsApp. So such landslide Siachen areas in this area is one reason could be the permafrost area. The recent studies of our studies have shown that there are large areas of permafrost in this area, especially in the high mountain regions. And when it thaws, permafrost it creates and it is a very potential area of risk. So why this is happening? This is habitat management and flood protection is key to I think in that perspective, when you consider areas, and now if you go and see, as some suggested in the beginning of the program, so we have very good practices you can see that is very constructed by shops and establishments, and the same areas being renovated. There is no concern which is now visible for the flood management in this area, and I think this matter seriously, as we have seen that there is very big the settled one of the main other areas, and also having a problem of accessibility of water because of water scarcity. The people try to move towards the streams and construct their settlements in that area, but that is very dangerous, and we need to fall back on the age-old tradition of constructing the houses on the hill slopes, and that is the best way to go ahead. There should be some strong action, legislation, habitat management, and action plan should be implemented in this area to save the future probability of future flood. Systems for like Doppler radars will be very helpful in tracking and studying, and so the more coverage of this many of these events. Such an advanced technology is very much important, and operation readiness of flood warning, like as Surya Prakash suggested, that community-based or early warning system should be part of the program, and flood harassment mapping and settlement relocation, legal framework for flood zone protection, and centralized flood inventory Ladakh through tahsils or local bodies, and crowdsourcing. And this is one of the important and interesting implementable part, that most of the events which I got, the listing I made, actually by surveying the official records from the tahsils and local bodies, which is all as station, but the source of flood and other things is not recorded. So such sources, and we can activate those bodies to crowdsource through the government channels each year how much event is occurring in some places, so that we get a better picture over a period of time, and growth inventory and explore critical settlement areas. It's also found that the tree plantation along streams caused a lot of damage in the areas where stuck and create further ponding, and that actually reduces the bridge and eventual bridge, and it should be avoided. And designing new culverts and bridges. And so related landslides for fishing. Hello?
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Khan. Thank you very much, and it was really a very nice and eye-opening presentation from your side, and your in-depth knowledge about the flood, glacier or glacier like burst and various hazard, various disasters in Ladakh is really appreciated. And you have in your presentation you have entirely covered about the this Ladakh various events happened in the Ladakh, and I must congratulate you and thank you very much for giving such a very informative talk. And anyway, in the panel discussion we'll discuss more about the points you have covered, but some of the points you have you have mentioned is really the need of the Ladakh, award for the Ladakh, like mapping of the potential glacier outlets. It's very important, and you said NRSA they have done some information is available. I think such information should be available at the local administration level, and if it is possible, like even in the public domain, so that the public are aware in this area there could be some potential our glacier lake outbursts. So accordingly, there like town planning and village planning can take place. And even you touch upon the flood hazard zonation mapping. I hope something might have done by the various agencies, but it is really a need of the hours to do the flood zonation mapping in Ladakh. Even I personally see in many of the these prone areas settlements are built, and you said in your presentation that settlement relocation, and if it really required, it's a very major challenging work for the administration to relocate some of the settlements in the downstream so the disasters can minimize. And also your the recommendation of 5 to 10 meters in the downstream, the trees should be removed. So because finally it's obstructing the flow of the water. So even in the Leh market itself, you can see the even the main the Nala, which is completely blocked. Even there are some buildings built above the Nala, and there really these need to be demolished at the earliest, and the recommendation needs to be strictly implemented by the administration. And I think it should be very strong recommendation should come in this way, and the redesigning of the bridges, and particularly the smaller bridges in the congested areas and towns and villages. The redesigning of the bridges needs to be done, and the culverts, the redesigning of culverts and the redesigning of the roads. So there is a lot of things you have touched upon, and really thank you very much. And also one more thing, like a thermofrost, and how thermofrost, how much research has been gone into that, and it really needs to be done. And this, I personally guess these are some of the research done by the independent university or the institution within the government and outside the government. But it is very high time now the administration in Ladakh, whether it is Union Territory administration, the hill councils, or the various representative, they should allocate a separate fund for the research funding. So all this as a project, I think they should come out with the project and give the funding, and let the research institutions or various agencies, be it the government and the private, do such research and give the very strong recommendation, and the administration should really implement those recommendations. Even in the villages, there's no building codes. Even in the Leh city itself, there's no building code. And really redesigning of the town, redesigning the villages, and various aspects you mentioned is really need of the hour. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for giving such an illustrious talk. And we look forward for more presentation from you in some other occasion, sir. Today, maybe because of lack of time, we could not, get more information. So maybe some other day we'll discuss more, sir. Thank you, sir. And now our next speaker, Dr. Ravinder Singh is there. Ravinder, NDMA. Ravinder Kumar. Is he there in the panel? Is he online?
No, sir. I couldn't see him in the panelist also, not in the attendees list also.
Oh, he's not there. Huh? He just by mistake, if he's in the
I have already checked that, sir.
participant, can you message Dr. Ravindra Kumar?
Already checked, sir. He's not there also.
He's not there. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Dr. Ravindra Kumar from the National Disaster Management Authority, maybe because of some network issue, so he's not there online. And then the next speaker is Sonam Lotus. She is Sonam Lotus.
Very good evening, sir. I am very much present here, sir.
Okay, so welcome our weatherman of Ladakh, Sonam Lotus. He is a good friend of mine.
Thank you, sir.
We were was together in the college time. So thank you very much for joining for today's session. And Sonam Lotus is known very famous in particular in the Kashmir Valley. He is known as the weatherman of Kashmir, and his weather predictions are really appreciated. So he is from village Shara Sharnos in Ladakh, and he did schooling from Ladakh itself. And after that, he did his MPhil from University of Jammu, and then he joined Indian Meteorological Department as a scientist B. And he has since then he has worked in the meteorological center in the Srinagar and brought significant improvement in the weather services, which help in the government and the general public take better informed decisions, thereby serving the precious life and properties and public trust and credibility in the IMD. As I said earlier, he is also known as the weatherman of JNK, and because of his outstanding contribution to the weather related activities, he has been awarded the Certificate of Merit cum Best Employees Award by the IMD in 2012, and the Certificate of Merit cum Best Employee Award of the Ministry of Arts Sciences for significant contribution in atmosphere science in 2018, and few other awards. So thank you very much, Sonam Lotus, and I request you to start your presentation now.
Thank you, Tajiji, and my.
Your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
No, sir.
I think
it's not muted, sir, but your voice is very low, sir. Your sound is very low, sir.
Okay, sir. Am I audible now, sir? Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible, but your sound, the volume is little low.
I can't hear.
Am I audible now, sir?
The other panelists, can you hear?
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, sir.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sonam, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Other panelists, please give feedback whether you can hear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear him, sir.
Yeah. He's audible.
Okay. Thank you, Tajiji, and my.
Dr. Subraj Sharma, sir, can you hear Sonam Lotus?
I can hear.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you, and Julie to all.
Hello, Dr. Subraj Sharma, sir.
Yes, sir. I can hear.
Hello.
I can hear.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I am sharing my Tashi sir, I am sharing my presentation here.
Hello.
Then will you give me the the sharing right, please?
So it has been given to you, sir.
I'm sharing it just make the. Hello.
So you have the right, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sharing my presentation. Just a minute. Are you able to see my presentation, sir? It's being shared.
Not yet, sir. You are not sharing presentation, sir. Kindly share 1 second, sir.
Yeah, it's being shared. I think you should be able to see.
Yes, sir. It is showing that you are sharing the content. I think it will take.
Okay, sir. I have already shared it, sir.
Okay. Your screen is visible now, sir.
Visible now, sir?
Yeah, your screen is visible, but not your presentation.
Now open the presentation, Lotus.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah, go ahead now. Now it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for taking some time. This is regarding my the topic of my presentation is early warning services of Ministry of Art Sciences in the UT of Ladakh. Why are not able to hear?
Sir, kindly click on the screen once, and then you can press the arrow button.
Okay. Okay, I'm doing that, but I'm not able to do that. I'm sharing. Just a minute. Okay. So this is the profile of Ladakh. You know, Ladakh region for the area of 45,101 10 square kilometers, 9 block climate. Everybody knows Ladakh is a very good about cold desert, very less precipitation of every normal annual precipitation of 10 centimeter, yani 100 millimeters per year. April and May, mostly during pre-monsoon season, April, May, the Ladakh region receives very heavy, strong gusty winds, sometimes dust storm, strong wind. Then topography, as we know, is hilly. Ladakh is very hilly and very complex terrain and topography, poor in terrain. As per 2011 census, the literacy of Ladakh region is 70%, but now I am very sure it must have gone above 90. Geographical location is this, and main crops of Ladakh is barley, potato, wheat. Although as on date, because of changing climate, and global warming, seasonal we grow seasonal vegetables, fruits like apples, pears, and even the villages like is very famous for production of watermelon, which is very sweet, organic, and so on and so forth. Why early warning system? Why early warning system? As per World Meteorological Organization, over the past 50 years, our more than 11,000 natural disasters that are due to hydrometeorological in nature. Means hydrometeorological trigger disasters. Of these 2 million deaths during the past 50 years, 2 million deaths during the past 50 years, the whole world recorded over 2 million deaths, and with economic loss of 3.6 trillion US dollar economic loss, and all due to natural disasters which are hydrometeorological in nature. However, the good thing is that during that period, average number of deaths has fallen by 1/3 during this period. The number of disasters during this period has increased by 7 times. This is as per the WMO, World Meteorological Organization, State of Climate Service report of 2020. And also WMO also says that extreme weather and climate increase in frequency, magnitude, and intensity. But despite making all the development, despite having all the advanced in science and technology and awareness and increase in media reporting, etc., still 1 in 3 people world over are still not covered by early warning system. This is not Sonam Loto saying, this is as per the World Meteorological Organization. But why we need an early warning system? Because we need an early warning system because being prepared will be able to react at the right time, at the right place, will save many lives and protect livelihood of community. And that is why we need early warning system is very essential. And even in case of India also, we see recently we see the death due to early warning increase in improvement, significant improvement made by different all the organizations like the line department, IMD, Ministry of Art Science, INQUAS, then ISRO, then coming up of NDM, NIHE, all and of course the preparedness, the effective and reliable early warning system saved thousands of millions of lives even in India, particularly during monsoon season, during flood, during winter heavy snowfall, during severe thunderstorm, and especially during cyclone. Hazard profile of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The Ladakh, Ladakh is vulnerable to flash flood, like my earlier analyst, presenter said. Ladakh is very prone to flash flood. The recent being 2010, 2015, and then 2015 in village of Sheh, Sapno, 2010 Leh, Sapno, Cholamsar area. Then we, apart from that, Ladakh is very, prone to, the experiences glacial lake block. The recent thing in very recent this year in, although many of you, it was even I was not knowing the time I went to holiday in my village, and I came to know that there was a block in one village, Skidmang, which is in the eastern of Ladakh, just close to my village, and then this is this year only. But then we have report of glass in Siacha, Nugra Valley, Achinathang, like that. And, these are the hazards for weather, glass, flood, earthquake, heavy snowfall, and especially at Khadungla and Buzilla, then Leh Manali route, heavy snowfall, rain, which give rise to avalanche, etc. Early warning services by Ministry of Art Science in Ladakh. Recently, I am very glad and happy to say that since Ladakh is like many of other Himalayan regions, Western Himalayan regions, Ladakh has its peculiarity. Ladakh has its own different and identical, different, very unique weather, unique climate, unique different kinds of disasters triggered by hydrometeorology. And keeping in view of that, Government of India, I'm very thankful to thankful and pleased to tell my audience that Government of India has approved establishment of a meteorological center, separate and meteorological center for Ladakh at Leh, for catering early warning system, all hydrometeorological early warning system to the administration, government, and the people of Ladakh, and they do that. And by doing that, we will be strengthening the number of observatory systems, surface observation, area, vertical profile, etc., and etc. And because as on date, the observation network of observation in Ladakh region, despite being coverage 60% of the Earth while state of Jammu and Kashmir is very, very scarce. and Ladakh experienced, windstorms, then blows, Ruga, Ashinatan, Elsa, Avalanche. This is the hazard profile, heavy rain, snow. Then we have reported in 2010, September 2018, February 2019, as a flashback, drawback, some four-way review, agriculture, aviation, research, development, highway forecast. These are the area where early warning system by IMD will be helpful. And these are the recent trends of precipitation, rain and snow. As the red one, the bar of the red one is average of 2000 and 2000 recent normal 2000 to 2020 means last 30 years average, last 20 years average, and on the blue ones are the average, or light blue ones are average of 1951 and 1980. But by looking at the picture clearly shows that the precipitation, be it rain or snow, for example, in January, November, December, January, February, generally Ladakh Leh experiences snow, and you can see that the amount of snowfall, average normal snowfall in Ladakh, in Leh region, as per the data which is available with this office IMD, has decreased considerably, and like this, the amount of rainfall, the monthly rainfall precipitation has also decreased considerably as per the data. This is as per the data available with this office. Yeah. Then you can see these are the precipitation, annual precipitation from 1901 to 2019, and you can see on an average, although till 1970 there is a consistent in Leh we have consistent report of consistent observations of precipitation in 1901, but because since thereafter, since 1970 till 1999, 98, there is a data gap because of some administrative problem, because of the Himalayan, because of some other administrative reasons. But then, since 1909, we have revived the observation system, and we have also collected all the data. And now you can see that although 2019-99 till 2015-16, we are not seeing any significant, these are annual precipitation. We are seeing a variable, there are significant variations, sometimes increasing, sometimes decreasing. But then 2017, 18, and 19, we see sharp increase in precipitation. The 2018, 2019, I remember in 2018 in September, in 24 hours, Leh reported 35, I think, I'm not very sure, 35, I think 35 millimeter of rainfall in 24 hours, whereas in February 2019, in 24 hours, Leh received around 38 centimeter of snowfall in 12 hours, which is which is very significant, which is unusual for a place like Ladakh, which is having dry and very this is very less precipitation. Leh weather extreme, and on the basis of climate rule of 1951 and to 80. The coldest, the lowest minimum temperature reported was 28.3 in 1899 in January, whereas the highest temperature in 1976 was reported 34.2. However, now on the other hand, you can see these are the recent data shows that in 2013, in the month of July, Leh report in the month of August. Leh report, because it is I showed it in yellow, so it was reported in August. Rest all the all the bars are in July, but 36.6 degrees Celsius were recorded in August 2013, whereas if you see minimum temperature, Leh recorded minus 26.6 degrees Celsius in 2008. So meaning you can see, but then and again, I want to emphasize here that in 2011 and 12, Leh recorded on consecutively next 11 and 12 minus 23, 23 and minus 23 both in 2011 and 12. Whereas on an average, thereafter 2014 till 2019, minimum temperature touched around minus 17, minus 18 like that. But on an average, I would overall I would the message is that the highest temperature in Ladakh in Leh can go up to minus 37 at any point of time, especially in the month of July and August, and it can fall below minus 20 on an average, the lowest being minus 26 also, because many people are saying anything, oh, Leh is very cold, Leh is not temperature will never will be minus 30 or something like that, no. And we'll say Leh is a cold place, temperature will never be above 25 or something like that, but the data shows this as per this thing. Then, main weather giving systems for Ladakh. The main weather giving system for Ladakh is normally Ladakh experiences heavy, not that heavy, Ladakh is not very heavy snowfall, but when compared to rest of the Himalaya, Ladakh experiences being on the leeward side of Western Himalaya, leeward side of Western Himalayan region, Greater Himalaya, Ladakh experiences of moderate winter snowfall, especially during January, February, and March. But most of the precipitation, winter snowfall, Ladakh experience in the month of February, and this winter snowfall is mainly driven by westerly driven, which we call westerly western disturbance, which brings moisture from Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, and western side, overall I would say western side of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. But then on the other side, many learned people also said, oh, Ladakh doesn't experience, monsoon doesn't experience monsoon current, monsoon and doesn't reach Ladakh because of the lofty mountain Himalayan region. No, it is not correct. As per my experience of our decade of working in IMD, it is observed and it is observed that Ladakh experience on a certain occasion when monsoon is very active, when conditions are favorable, Ladakh does experience very heavy monsoon shower. Example being August 2010, cloud burst 2015, and then in September 21st September 20th and 21st September 2018 September heavy rainfall, which of which we given early warning and we stopped we alerted the administrator, rather than administration of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which enabled, we stopped all the trucks going from Leh to Manali, and we stopped at Ukshi. As a result of which, we were able to save many precious life and of course many truckers also. These are the network of meteorological observatories in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Right now I said these are the existing observatory in Jammu and Kashmir. You can see that we have enough meteorological of the automatic weather station, automatic rain bank, many more observatories spread across length and breadth, almost at each district of Jammu and Kashmir. Whereas in Ladakh, both in Leh and Kargil, we have only got one automatic weather stations and one automatic weather station at Dras and another automatic weather station at Stagna in agriculture farm, agriculture university. The data from which are available online, accessible by any people, anywhere in the world, and accessible online. It is available online. These are the existing radar. These are the proposed weather radar, and I am happy to tell the audiences that IMD will install Doppler weather radar well before the commencement of the winter 2021. In next 1 to 2 months, we should be able to establish and operate the Doppler weather station, Doppler weather radar in Ladakh. Okay, these are the type of weather observation system which we will be installing in Ladakh. This is a manual observatory which we will establish just before the winter, this winter, and this is automatic weather station. We have already placed 10 automatic weather stations for installation at different for covering for getting observation from different places like Noma, Navkar, Nubra, Pengu, Dudu, Tangse, then the Assam Valley of Kargil district, Da, Hanu, Kargil. Although regarding establishment of this operationalization of AWS, I will not make a commitment because the season is almost the season is almost getting over because temperatures are already going below freezing point in here. So therefore, I will not commit. Though we will try, but surface observatory we will establish before winter, and by next year, I sure that IMD has already procured 10 and we will procure more IWS, and we will strengthen establish weather observation from different places by next summer. And this is the Doppler weather radar, and this Doppler weather radar we will establish in Leh and well before this is the weather radar which we are going to establish in operating Ladakh before this winter, and this is just we will establish more take upper air observation from Leh, satellite images is already available online. This is just an example. Although this satellite observation is already weather monitoring satellite observation is already available on online. It's available on IMD website, and these are the products that we will be getting from this radar. And right now, just some of our some participants I saw in the mail. I have not individually answered. Actually, the question was meant for everyone. No specific question was asked. Then I thought how to, since Ladakh is very prone to earthquake. Let me tell you what to do. These are the before earthquake, since whole Ladakh falls under seismic zone 4. So therefore, we need to be very careful. We need to remain alert. The people, the administration, and all the stakeholders need to be aware and very proactive. So what we can do is, before we need to make our people, make the citizens aware what to do before, what to do during, and what to do after an earthquake. These are the some do's and don'ts which I got from the website of NDMA. This I got from National Disaster Management NDMA website of for Government of India. Before that, we have to consult a structural engineer to make sure that we have to all our buildings must be repaired. These are the rules. During earthquake, we need to stay calm, not to panic, drop under to our head, save our head under a table, then under a table, run out, then run. We have to run outside as soon as the tremor stops, not during, only as soon as the tremor stops. Then these are the some of the what to do during an earthquake, and then what to do after an earthquake. So these are the things that after an earthquake we have to avoid entering damage using if present rubber, do not light a match, cover your mouth with cloth, and so on and so forth. But during an earthquake, very important thing is during an earthquake, we have not to be panicked. When outside, move away from tall buildings. Tall buildings, trees, walls, posts से दूर रहना चाहिए. Then we have to keep ourselves away from glasses. जैसे कोई window के पास हो, we should not remain close to the window or any glass, I think, which may anything which may fall and which may fall down and cause injury to the inmate. So when we are inside a vehicle, pull over in an open area, inside the vehicle, stop the vehicle and avoid it like that. Then in the conclusion, I would like to say that being prepared and able to react at the right time, at the right place will save many lives and lives. Improvement, I am very happy to say that improvement in forecast, although we have made a significant improvement in weather forecasting for both Jammu Kashmir across India, and in particular, if you say Ladakh, actually we save life and livelihood, like in case of coastal area of India, like cyclone, Pant, I place on report my sincere appreciation and thanks to the UP administration that they allotted land for establishment of Dobla weather radar at top and establishment of meteorological center at Choglam sir. I would like to thank. They have been very proactive. They are very helpful, and I'm very sure we will help them, and we will come. We will provide all possible help to the administration to keep Ladakh safe, secure, and and make Ladakh a very disaster foolproof disaster area. Net center in Ladakh will be operational before winter 2021. Net center in Ladakh will help Ladakh administration to avoid natural disaster and will help the community, government, and the student community in particular. This I would like to thank you. This is my presentation.
Yeah, from Lotus, thank you very much. But your presentation was not visible. Nevertheless, it was very informative and informative talk. And we really appreciate your selfless service to the people of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir in delivering the weather services to them. And you have earned a good name because of your sincere service, working day and night. And you have touched upon the early warning systems in Ladakh and JNK, and how important it is for the overall economy of the state, be it agriculture or disaster management, or in every sector, weather system plays a major role. And the various automatic weather stations installed in Ladakh, and as of now you said only two are available, one in Kargil and one in Stakhna. Ladakh being the very big geographical area, and many of the regions are not easily accessible. So keeping in that view, you said like there is a plan for expansion of AWS network in Ladakh. I think that's a very good step, and the satellite data anyway, even now the next state of the art satellites will give much more prediction, as you are aware. And nevertheless, satellite data cannot predict like what very highly level, but as you rightly said, the Doppler weather radar one is going to be established in Ladakh. It's a very good news for all the people in Ladakh. The Doppler radar station is very highly accurate, and it can give much more better predictions. And I hope like one is not enough, even more weather Dopplers Doppler weather radars to be can maybe established in Ladakh in the coming years. And other things like earthquake. Okay, we tried for a specialist in the earthquake domain from other institute, but because of the their preoccupation with some other activities, they could not join today's panelist. Maybe in some other days we'll try to bring earthquake or technoplate specialist. So you have touched upon the do's and don'ts. Thank you very much. And my one suggestion is like Ladakh can have a satellite data download station, so that near real time data can be available, and the expertise and can be viewed. So with that, I would like to thank you, Sonam Doctor, for sharing your valuable experience. Now I call upon Dr. Subra Sharma, our beloved. And he has been main behind this today's conference, and he has guided us, and he has been constantly motivating all our team virtually or and others in Leh. So I would like to request Dr. Subra Sharma, senior scientist and head of the Ladakh Regional Center of GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment. This center is established in Ladakh recently. And it is identified as a nodal agency for the Union Territory of Ladakh for the scientific inputs and studies. So I think as of now, this is the only scientific organization exists in Leh. So I wish some more to come, but right now, GB Pant is there in Ladakh. So I'm very happy, and we are very happy to be collaborate with them, Ladakh Science Foundation and GB Pant Institute. We will work together and try to bring more scientific part into that sustainable development Ladakh. And I would like to request you, sir, you can share your experience, or we'll start with the panel discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Tashi, for your words. And actually, let me thank you, starting with Dr. Tashi. Is the
Thank you,
man
sir.
behind this entire. Don't claim my name on that, but this idea and all other things are from Dr. Tashi. But we just join the hands with them, and NIDM. I am very much thankful to NIDM. They really give us a very boost for this event. On a lighter note, I will not extend much because it will be another disaster event. The participant will call it, because most of us are sitting in mountains in a cold environment. Just to recap the things that what happened today is the key elements is precautions, preparedness are the two major elements, and integrated efforts from every domain, from every discipline, from every organization, and from the practitioners and the people and the community. All together are required to establish a disaster risk reduction mechanism and preparedness about this. The important point another came up was the technology back. We understand that technology has certain limitations, as also said by Dr. Renjo, that we have satellite images not matching the requirements of mapping cloudburst event limited to 1 square kilometer area, something like that. But certainly in the telecommunication way, technology, information technology is very much required during the disaster, pre, post, for even the extent and communication purposes that exist certainly. Then, but on the other side also, what we experienced in Uttarakhand, that local level or community level indicators can also be developed. Our short experience from the forest fire clearly indicates that climate change and the weather, especially during winters, is a precursor of forest fire happening at large in Uttarakhand. And when it synchronizes with leaf fall, major leaf fall occurs in the forests of Uttarakhand, pine and the sal. With the same time, we have a lot of human activities in terms of our community movements, tourist influx, and all sort of things. All these things together integrate and turned into a major forest fire events in the Uttarakhand. This is our experience. But on other hand, we can learn, we can develop local and community level indicators to get ready for preparedness to check the forest fire, which is not the case of Ladakh certainly, but here are the other points where we can have some local level indicators where instrumental observations are not available or cannot be put in that way. I will just explain that what I mean for Ladakh. From my office building, usually I see from my window this Stoke Kangri area. And many times from our experiences, which we learned during our stay in Uttarakhand and in other part of monsoonal mountains, we saw that the rains are occurring there, which most of my colleagues who are from this Ladakh landscape were not able to observe. And I confirmed it with one of my colleague. She lives in Stoke village, that this flood happened or the rain, intense rain happened or not. Yes, it was. But as Dr. Ranjo said, that it was not observed or recorded in our instrumental observations. From in Ladakh, we can see a far away places from one point. In that way, such observations can be recorded by community or the local, and then we can develop a mechanism where we can feed to the disaster mitigation centers or management centers at district level or state level that such local level events are occurring. This is one point. And because as Dr. Ranjo also said, most of them are unreported. Magnitude and the local stations, observations, instrumentation still is a far away step to be seen at a large in the India and especially in the mountains. So we have to be prepared with our local observation centers and the local knowledge and the local mechanism to develop a rescue as well as relief as well as happening of an event. Legislation and habitat management came very apparently in during entire discussions, and especially when this early warning system is in place. So in that way, we can have a technology on one side and legislation and the enforcement of legislation on other side. So it's a tricky situation between the science and the practitioner. A very good point came as a research funding by Dr. Tashi. Certainly, we look for that. Just to apprise the audience that in Uttarakhand, we had a mechanism that every budget for every department has a 10% allocation for disaster risk reduction kind of activities. It is executed or not is the second question, but mechanism exists there. So in that way, there are many things which we can say that things are in place, technology is in place, and an integration and effective management and execution is the real need to reduce the disaster risk. And in India, even we have a very good examples, the Odisha cyclone, when we'll minimize the loss of lives and all sort of things. So in that way, once again, thank you to all the participants and the panelists having a long day after such a tiring day of your time and contributing to this. Over to you, Dr. Tashi. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other panelists would you like to add some points? Or not the panelists, or other like keynote speaker, Professor Surya Prakash, and who else is there right now? Would you like to add particularly, especially if you have to recommend something to the administration? So any points would you like to add? Any of the speaker can just add some points. Yeah. Sir, Surya Prakash, sir.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Okay, fine, sir. No problem, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
sharing. I think now I'm audible.
Yeah, audible,
Am I
sir.
audible?
Yeah,
Okay.
audible.
Just one suggestion to you and GB Pant Institute, that
Okay.
if you can try to add disaster management in school education, college and university
Okay,
in
sir.
Ladakh region, it would be a good contribution from your end.
Okay,
And you
sir.
can help them develop a small laboratories for disaster management,
Okay.
giving them small equipment. For example, I learned from your conversations that you have actually point-based measurements for rainfall. Okay, so we can use our different school systems, and schools can start recording small, use small meteorological instruments to monitor the rainfall happening in those areas. And also there is possibility to actually provide them some equipments to even monitor earthquake vibrations or something like that. Simple instruments which can be devised locally using our scientific principles. I would advise means whatever possible from the local level, monitoring and early warning systems.
Okay, sir.
That can be done even for landslides also. A community-based early warning system is quite possible if you have rainfall data or displacement data.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Just to add on to what Professor Surya Prakash said, there was a scheme in Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, which implied with the local observatory installations in schools. And our institute was also part of this exercise. And during that time, we developed many instrumental observatories in schools, and people were very enthusiastically recording. One of the good example is that after turning off this project, still Dwarahat Inter College is feeding to the Uttarakhand Meteorology Department regarding this instrument observations at schools. So this is a very good suggestion, sir. I think we can go for Ladakh regarding this school observatories or the community observatories like that.
Okay, sir.
Over to you, Dr. Kashi.
Yes, sir. Now, just just a vague idea. Like earlier, similar thing, like Dr. Sharma sir said, local recording. Local recording of the events. So we can think of developing a mobile app. By using that mobile app, many people can upload pictures or videos, and that will directly transmit to a central location in Leh, where some such local events, any natural disaster, be it earthquake or flash flood or anything, so that can become very effective tool. Let's say suppose in the let's say suppose in events happening in the Changthang area, like a river water level becoming high. Even if we don't have sensors there, but the local people can just can take a picture of the riverside. Okay, the water level has come to this, and just upload it onto the mobile app. Then mobile app transmit to the central station. Then people at the central station can process those. So I think this we can suggest as a technology demonstration or something like that. So and also the like giving such instrument to the schools. Finally, it has to come to the some data process. So this is a good suggestion. We'll try to explore that. Then Dr. Arijit Roy, any point would you like to add?
I will request Dr. Arjit Roy, please speak about the mobile app which IRS is developing, which Dr. Kashi just right now emphasized is very good to take action point where IRS and LSF and GB Pant Institute can provide inputs to develop this mobile app, and IRS has a compatibility in developing such mobile apps. They have developed very complicated. What Dr. Tashi is saying is a very simple one. I think Dr. Arjit may please comment on that.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. I believe that mobile app is one of the very useful and efficient tool in generating the by using the community participation. Because today I believe everyone has a mobile. Limited amount of knowledge in IT can use a mobile phone. And since the forms which are generated for filling up the databases are becoming so easy and simple that just clicking of photographs, giving access to the GPS to take the location, and drop-down menus can be very easily customized for each and every type of disaster to provide in almost in real time the extent, the type, and the rate of spread of the disasters. So in this way, IRS has been working on developing various apps, especially based on open source platforms, so that we do not depend on any particular commercial software for its sustenance as well as further development. We have developed forest fire apps which can provide the location, type, the extent, as well as the amount of resources required to combat it. We have also been developed early warning system based on risk alerts, which is generated using the Earth observation systems, wherein we take the weather parameters which are responsible for fire risk areas, and these information are disseminated in every day to the various stakeholders, mainly the range officers and the disaster management officers of Uttarakhand at present, up to the compartment and beat level. So this is a very important input wherein the Forest Department of Uttarakhand is able to allocate the minimal resources to combat the chances of forest fire in this state. This same thing can be adapted for all the other disasters, especially the landslides, avalanches, and flash floods. So I believe that we can provide a handholding for the government of Ladakh to further develop on this particular aspect, and also incorporate the various facets of disaster management and the inputs of geospatial technology for disaster risk reduction and disaster management strategies to government of Ladakh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the valuable input. So definitely we'll put into the recommendations and maybe the government level, they can start some collaborative project with the IRS. And not only this just mobile app, there is many domains. I understand IRS can help the administration of UT of Ladakh. So we look forward for more collaboration, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable input.
Thank you.
Now, thank you, sir. Now, any other point would you like to add, sir? Any other important? Like a satellite data receiving station, is it worth to establish or not required?
I think satellite data receiving station is not that important because we can have a mirror server at Ladakh for the data sets which you require. Because I don't believe you require all the data sets which we are procuring at NRS.
Okay. Suppose even if we get a mirror data, so some processing experts need to be there, right?
So that can be well managed using some cloud-based resources which we can develop, because that will be much cheaper rather than hosting the things on a system and then asking people to move from one place to other. So if it is hosted on a good cloud-based system, we can even process the data from IRS or do the handholding from IRS, and you can do the rest of the work there.
Yeah, in such a case, whether IRS will do it for free or the government has to pay for the services.
See, the mandate of IIRS is basically training and capacity building. So we will be very happy to train your people to do the work yourself.
Okay. So in that aspect, sir, as you are aware that every state has a state remote sensing center, which indirectly does all this kind of work. In us while J&K state, even they didn't had a state remote sensing center. They had one environmental some cell. So at that time also I raised many of the officials. We must have a state remote sensing center. So it was not there. Even the now new UT system, definitely there's no scientific organization. Now recently GB Pant Institute that has been set up their branch in Leh. But taking up the remote sensing activities and application, they also don't have the a mentor and the know-how to do it. So what is your view to set up a state remote sensing application center in UT Ladakh to not only take up this disaster management activities, some other developmental activities? What is your view on this?
I would suggest that of course you will basically need a state remote sensing center to cater to all of the I would say the database generation which is required for Ladakh. There are some databases for Ladakh which has been generated by various institutions across the country, mainly national remote sensing centers, and maybe having some of the databases which has been created from various projects and other activities. But to begin with, I think you can have a section in your science and technology cell which will cater to the remote sensing and geospatial technology, wherein you can start developing your own databases at all level, right from the agriculture, the forest and natural ecosystems, the geomorphology, the hydrological regimes, as well as the free and open source data sets which you have for the climate and the land cover, the land temperature, and all those aspects. They are available, and you simply have to collect them and basically organize them so that you will be able to yourself analyze the various patterns and processes which are taking place there, which is very, very much different than what we are studying in the rest of the country. Because I had visited Ladakh in my LTC 2 years back. So seeing the ecology there, it is a totally different ecosystem which very few people have studied on, and we still are not able to, we are not in a position to understand the various processes which are taking place in the cold deserts. Right from the various ecosystem processes, the hydrogeomorphological processes, the fluvial processes, and other things. So basically what you need is your database generation, the long-term database generation. So you should start with a cell, I would suggest, in your science and technology department, whichever you are establishing. and then migrate from remote sensing application center in future, which can be self-sufficient and will be able to do its own work. And in the initial phases, of course, we will be happy to do the handholding for your staff and give them the required training. For that, IRS is mandated, and we would be happy to do it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir, for your suggestion. But the sad part is that even there is no science and technology cell or department at all. So right now in UT Ladakh, there's absolutely wide and there's very big gap of using the science and technology. So there is very little thrust or from the thrust motivation or like importance to this importance of science and technology in the sustainable development Ladakh. Right now, today we are discussing one part of it, disaster risk management, and there are like what Dr. Ajay Roy said, like a remote sensing application, science and technology application. There are like tectonic plates and earthquake is a big science. So geology is a big science. So I think full of the science part is totally neglected in the last many decades in the Aswell state of Jammu and Kashmir. Even in today's new UT setup in the okay, it is not come to the public domain, so they may be working on it. So definitely they should work. So I hope to see a Department of Science and Technology in Ladakh and Department and Ladakh Remote Sensing Center. And there are many institute of excellence are required, like geology, geography, and earth sciences. So I hope some of that work can be carried by the GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, and there are many other aspects. I hope in future the administration or the government will look into it, and will definitely take this as one of the recommendation of the today's seminar webinar to set up such as institution of excellence. And really, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for
And
your.
I would also add some of the points. We have already carried out a mega project in IIRS on understanding the ecosystem of the Western Himalayas, right, which takes into account the hydrology, the various soil processes, the environmental climate, and other things. I was a part of that multi-investigator team, and we had the good fortune to have Dr. Subrat Sharma as also one of our co-investigators. So part of that, we had developed some databases, which of course, if it is useful, we will be happy to share with you. And we are also in the second phase of this particular work, wherein we will be studying some aspect of the cold desert to understand the various processes. So I believe that we can start generating some amount of databases, and let us see how it happens in future.
Yeah, it's a good idea, sir. Now we'll move to Dr. Thayan, sir. Are you there? Rinoj Thayan. I think he is not there online, but his points are very well captured in my earlier in our discussion. So and his recommendations are very valuable. I will some of the just points I will just read out. So he has nevertheless we have discussed earlier. Like he has given many recommendation, like mapping of potential glacier outlet burst, then glacier research dams and habitat management, action plans, policies, and Doppler weather radar. Anyway, that IMD Lotus has confirmed it's there in this pipeline. Then flood warning system, early warning system, flood hazard zonation mapping, then settlement relocation. That's a major, I think, recommendation he has given. then redesigning of the bridges, redesigning the culvert systems, and many others, and keeping 10 to 15 days free band. So I think Professor Thayan has given very good recommendation. And then Major General Manoj Kumar has also given a lot of ideas. So I think we have generated a lot of know-how during this webinar seminar. And then Sonal Lotus also has given a lot of idea about the weather part of it. So any points left, or otherwise we'll wind up the session, sir? Sharma sir,
captured most of the things, especially after their presentations and their talks. And we have noted, our reporters also noted the points. I think it is time to wind up the things.
It's bit late. And Commissioner Secretary Disaster Management, Swagat Bishwa sir, he is busy with his other activities. So he has sent a message that he's very happy to conduct this conference successfully, and then he has initially in his remarks also he has asked for some outcomes and recommendation. So definitely we'll do that, sir. And I must thank National Institute of Disaster Management entire team, be it Executive Director Major General Manoj Kumar sir, and Surya Parkash sir, and Sabha sir, for giving this technical support and collaboration. That's my I must thank them, sir. Now, shall we wind up? Now, we'll request Dr. Suresh Rana to give the word of thanks, sir.
Before Dr. Suresh, you said, I want to put on record that we are very thankful to Mr. Swagat Viswas. You know, the one fact, real fact, is that he came out just out of ICU today evening only. And even then, he came to for the inaugural session, and very enthusiastically, he said many things related with the disaster. He is really very, we salute him that for his commitment to the disaster and to this event. I want to put it on record.
Yeah, that's really appreciable, sir. Really appreciable. I didn't know this. Really appreciable.
Actually, I was talking with him on WhatsApp, so I came to know that.
Okay. So we'll wish him a speedy recovery.
Yes, certainly. We all
and under his leadership, he being the head of the disaster management, we look forward for his cooperation and taking more scientific inputs in administration.
Right. I think now we should welcome Dr. Suresh Rana.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's now my privilege to propose the vote of thanks for the seminar on disaster in Ladakh, vulnerability and preparedness. On behalf of GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, National Institute of Disaster Management, and Ladakh Science Foundation, and on my own behalf, I would like to thank today's chief guest, Shri Swagat Vishwas, IAS, Divisional Commissioner, Union Territory of Ladakh. Thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion with your esteemed presence and for making us aware on the issues associated with disaster risk reduction and management in Ladakh. Thank you, sir, for we appreciate your enthusiasm. We appreciate that you spend your valuable time and you came even in this condition. I would especially like to thank Major General M.K. Bindal, Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi, to accept our request for this collaborative seminar and for sharing his experience and insightful inputs on disaster risk reduction in Ladakh. I would also like to thank Dr. R.S. Rawal, Director, GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, for opening this seminar with his welcome address and for making the participants aware about activities of GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan environment in Ladakh. We are highly indebted to the key speaker of this seminar, Professor Surya Prakash from National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi. Thank you very much, sir, for providing detailed background and information on disaster reduction governance in India and for highlighting the issues of disaster risk reduction and management in Ladakh. I would further like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the eminent speakers and panelists of this seminar, Dr. Arijit Roy, Head Department of Disaster, IIRS, ISRO, Dehradun, Dr. Reno Jethain, Scientist, National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, and Shri Sonam Lotus, Scientist, Head Meteorological Center, Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you everyone for sparing your valuable time and enlightening us about disaster risk reduction and management in Ladakh. At the end, I would like to particularly thank Dr. Shering Tashi, scientist ISRO and founder of the Ladakh Science Foundation, for his active role in organizing this seminar and moderating this seminar very smoothly and very well. I would further like to thank Dr. Subrat Sharma, Head Ladakh Regional Center of GB Pant National Institute, for organizing this seminar and for summarizing the proceeding of this seminar. I would further like to thank all the participants for sharing their valuable time to attend this seminar. I hope that this seminar has increased the awareness on the disaster risks in Ladakh, and all of us will further spread the word for a better Ladakh. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Sir, one last point. Only some 10 minutes. So there are some questions actually from the audience. So we have not taken their questions, but in between some part of the questions was answered. So I will pose to all the panelists. But actually these questions are more to the Ladakh. So we don't have a representative from Ladakh. So this Rigzin Norfeld, he has said that my question is how the rapid afforestation in Ladakh by many NGOs from the last many years is affecting the Ladakh climate and ground level of water, because most of the plants are planted with the use of groundwater. Shall we promote afforestation in Ladakh or not? So who is the better person to answer this, sir?
This question is very pertinent and it comes to the mind of everyone who comes to Ladakh first time. You know that every tree has a limitation to grow in certain heights. So that's why we are very naked and we are like a desert. This minus temperature is a real issue with the plant growth, as we all understand. So bringing the plantation for the plantation purpose, I think is not rightly answered or even investigated. We have Central Arid Zone Research Institute units here in Ladakh to cater this question. I think such questions may be answered by them in through proper scientific studies. But certainly tree has a limitation and tree can't grow everywhere. And this cold desert of Ladakh is not a suitable habitat for them. This is the very preliminary answer, but really scientific studies are required.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And he has asked one more question. Rigzin Norfeld, what Ladakh administration learned from 2010 August flash flood? What were the loopholes? I think Dr. Thayan is not there, right? Otherwise, he is the right person to answer this.
I think only administration can give a right answer. Actually, institutional memory, when we Professor C. Funchok, the Vice Chancellor of Ladakh, delivered a lecture on 10 September here in Leh, then he precisely said that institutional memory is very much required, especially when you talk about the disaster. This was also emphasized by Professor Surya Prakash when he said that documentation and learning from the past experiences are the foundation of for the future. So, in my opinion, institutional memory and revisiting those memories are very much required to learn the lessons, and certainly legislations and effective legislation implementation is the key word here, which is largely not addressed in India.
Yeah, I personally feel that I think over the 10 years we have forgotten the flash flood, cloud burst, and all the disaster. Even though people understands it, but finally implementing in the ground, it's my personal view. There's no lesson learned, Mr. Drixin Norfel. I'm very sorry to say that even if we had a huge loss of human, around some 200 plus people died in during those cloud burst time, but still I find it many places, even the Sabutang, and you go a little bit nearer to the Gompa, the other side, that Mahabudi side, even in the run of water like there. So there are plots are made, houses are made again. So there's no administration to control. There's no proper town planning, and even in the Leh market, you can see the main water stream. It's becoming like a small drainage kind of thing. Even say some places, even in the water stream, they have a pillar on the both side, and on top of that they build some business houses. So definitely I'm sorry to say that we have not learned lesson, and administration needs to be very strict. If required, demolish, they should demolish such structures. They should cancel such license. So I agree with Mr. Rixin Norfel. His questions are very valid. We have not learned lesson, so it's still not late. We should do it. That's what the Professor Rinoj Than said, like resettlement. That's a very big question. Relocation of the settlements. And that means removing those structures and moving those houses to other places. And also, like he suggested, 15 to 10 meter, there should not be any trees plantation in the downwater streams. There should not be any housing complex in the bank of the rivers water stream. So such a very strong recommendation. This is not the first time today we are discussing. These are the known. These are in the government recommendation, but finally implementing, and the local people cooperation is also required. Finally the people should cooperate. Yes, it is what the government is doing is for our good, for our survival. So they have to understand. People have to understand the risk. So it's better than we should start working on those. So definitely we'll recommend such thing. Finally, it is up to the administration to act on the ground. We as a scientific community, we can give some suggestions and recommendation. Then we look forward for more cooperation from the government. So the next question is he's asking why Ladakh administration is not promoting Ladakh local toilet system to overcome from water scarcity and groundwater level depletion. Manure produced through it can help in agriculture production to success mission organic development in India. I think it's a very good question. I being the local of that area earlier, in all the villages we used to have the local toilet system that was really eco-friendly. There's no water used in that, and it is finally it gives that organic manure. So that was a sustainable way. Our older generation, they have thought and they have devised the system. Now in today's world, we are competing with the rest of the world, and even in the villages they have put Western toilet systems, which doesn't work and which is not required. This is more of a fashion, or okay, even in summer, okay, you can use for a few months, or if some guest comes. Otherwise, I personally feel in the particular villages they should turn back to the traditional system that is more sustainable. And even in the Ladakh, Leh itself, even government can start some local. Even there are local toilets. It's no doubt, but the maintenance is very poor. There's no way to bringing enough soil and then mixing and then finally converting those into the organic manuring and then bringing to bring those to the villages. Just making a few buildings of local toilet and finally becoming dirty and lock up and all are locked up in the winter. So it is really it doesn't look nice. But this is my personal perception. And anybody who would add to this local toilet promotion?
I will just add to you that the problem has a three phases. One is governance. Another is the false developmental markers, and third is that taking pride into our local traditions and the custom. These are the three basic points to address this issue or any other local traditional issue which is eroding these days.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we can.
Yes, I think we can call off the day.
Time now. Okay,
Once
sir.
again,
Then
thank you everyone,
okay.
especially Dr. Tashi for your this very energetic way of conducting the entire session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night, and thank you all. Thank you.
Morning,